little trip, take a little trip and see. Take a little trip, take a little trip, take a little trip with me. Take a little trip, take a little trip and see. Take a little trip, take a little trip, take a little trip with me.
What the heck? Why is the bot referring to itself? See that? It's talking to the other bot, halfway broadcasting, but then it refers to itself. Bob Ross 350 must be on cloud 9 with that amount. I've already given him his medicine. His 9 o'clock medicine. I sound like I'm drunk because I got a bunch of sores on the end of my tongue. You can't see it, but my tongue is fucking trembling from the pain. She's like, boo. I'm not doing that on purpose. Errors, man. Whatever. So, I sound like I'm a little drunk, but I'm not. I'm not. It's just it. My tongue is numb. Well, like I can't. Oh, I can't use it right. One of the reasons why I wasn't here yesterday. I'm starting to wonder if there's a terpene in this weed. Probably not. It's fucking just what happens. I get a random flare up and I don't know what does it or what will make it go away. I've been trying to take a Lysin. That hasn't worked, so I stopped taking that last night. It's supposed to help with the autoimmune disorder, but I'm feeling like it's making it worse, maybe. And this is one of the reasons why I don't have a job. Because of these fucking pesky motherfuckers. Because with my already apparent temper, with this, it throws me over the edge, man. I get fucking, if I have to deal with a customer or a boss tell me what to do and I'm dealing with this, I'm gonna end up going off, dude. Time and time again. Spontaneously. I mean, I'll be like going to work like, hey, yeah, I'm doing this, man, I'm doing it. I feel like shit, but I'm doing it. And all of a sudden, I mean, they'll say something to like just, you know how bosses can be, man. Or customers. Bro. One of the major problems with it, with my workability. Everybody just thinks I prefer to live off of barely nothing, and I mean, compared to what I could be living off of, I have the aptitude to be making a ton of money. I know that. I was the smart son, believe it or not. Out of 3, I was the smart one. You would think about looking at my life, would you? It's okay. We're still alive, man. I didn't expect it to still be here. I thought I'd be dead by mid-30s. Doing alright. Beating the odds. Like and shared? No. This isn't a shared one. This isn't one to share. I don't have much to go off of today. I'm just kind of like catching up because I've been gone for a little while. Gone for a day. This isn't a sharing one. So if you're here because he shared it, I'm sorry. Sorry. It's well, thanks, man. It's a whole mouth ordeal. It's not just a tongue, so it's like it'll get mine. They'll get down in here even. Sometimes all this, so they go wherever they want to go. It's just the tongue usually affects me the most. Either that or my throat will affect me a lot also. But the lips and the cheeks, I can deal with pretty well. Lips, cheeks, gums, I can deal with that much better. But like the throat, like I gotta swallow. You gotta swallow. You gotta swallow your spit. You gotta swallow water. You got the fucking throat ones are probably right on the line with the tongue ones, because the tongue ones hurt every time I talk and eat. And brushing my teeth, forget about it. Fucking dude, my mouth bleeds every time I brush my teeth. And it's torture. It's like, because I have to brush my tongue, right? You gotta brush your fucking tongue. I got all these sores on it. And sometimes my eyes just water, like I'm in there crying or something, but I'm not. It's just like pain watering. Yeah, it could be worse though, man. I saw this little girl, she went to Taylor Swift. She had some aggressive form of brain cancer, man. Like probably 8 years old, bald, at a Taylor Swift concert. You know, only gonna have like a year to live. Fuck, I broke out, dude. I started leaking on that one. That was yesterday. So sad. So this like ran up to her. She had a front row, like one of the Make-A-Wish seats. And Taylor Swift gave her a hug, and the place was packed. There was like 100,000 people there. Damn, man, like. And her mom's sitting there recording it, like for the memory, I guess. But it's like, it's still depressing. Even though she's happy for that moment. Oh. I tell him he's another employee. Is that why you no longer work there? So these people are talking right now, if you didn't know. Not that anybody cares, but White House challenge to end hunger, build healthy communities event with second gentleman Imhoff, whoever the heck that is. Yeah. I got into something on Reddit today. Want to see it? I mean, I didn't really get into it. They're just ignorant. They're just a little ignorant. Oh my god, what the fuck? Why are you spitting shit up over here? Bro, I heard it. He went. And I could see shit leaking out of his mouth. I just gave him his medicine. Okay, no, it's not. I didn't see any of it. First time I see him do that. Drop down from there on the ground. Transparency, more. Fine, Griffin. But you're the best employee. Fine. I don't know if that time to say good morning. What do you mean? Okay, so somebody posted in Reddit this. 43 years ago, my family immigrated to the U.S. as refugees. Picture was taken in the day we arrived at Stapleton Airport in Denver, Colorado. Right. Oh my god, that's sweet. Whatever. And there's the picture. Right? And they look like they're from Asia, probably in a country that's going through some shit 43 years ago. Who's going through stuff in the 70s? Would this have been Vietnamese, probably? Escaping North Vietnamese, trying to actually escape a war-torn country, maybe? Okay, so the first comment, of course, because it's Reddit. Oh wait, it's not the first comment anymore. Oh, maybe it was Laos. Where did it go? Here it is. Before Fox News, this country of mostly immigrants welcomed this. Wait, where did my comment go? So I said this is before we had tons of federally funded NGOs giving welfare assistance to migrants before our homeless. Plus, these people were probably real refugees, not financial opportunists. I got 3 negative downvotes. If anything, the increase in migrants seeking asylum from political chaos in their own country is part of the fallout of U.S. foreign policy in Central South America during the Cold War and then the drug war. I said most of these people have money in the countries they are in. Oh, by the way, he's got 7 upvotes. They save up thousands to make the trip. They only come here because we coddle them, treating them better than our own homeless. Military-aged men coming here to make our country more like theirs was, when they could have tried to fix their own country. Blaming world hunger and poverty on America is ridiculous. It is America's fault that Africa tops the list for fertility rate. I gave the fertility rate list. While at the same time topping the list for humanitarian aid assistance, and I gave the list for humanitarian aid assistance. Well, of course, Ukraine right now is at the top of the list, but humanitarian aid assistance, besides Ukraine's recent, it's mostly Africa. Mostly Afghanistan's in there, sure. Yemen's in there, but Ethiopia, Congo, South Sudan. We've already looked at this list. Somalia. We've looked at the list. And then, not to mention, America is a top contributor for humanitarian aid for the world, by far. So I included this list. We spend $9.4 billion on humanitarian aid in 2023, and the next is the entire European Union at $2.1 billion. Okay. It seems no matter how much we help, they want more. Am I fucking wrong about this? Please, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want this to be an echo chamber. What am I? And why did this one not get downvoted? This is legal conversation. Don't confuse the two, like CNN. Why does he get fucking upvoted and I get downvoted? Oh, I see. Because he put this in here. The sad part is it's an easy bipartisan fix. All the Uni Party has to do is reform the work visa system to make it easier, cheaper and easier, maybe even free. But you as register get deported. Right. This is why he's not getting downvoted, because he put in here to just let them in. After saying don't confuse this with what fucking bullshit, dude. Make your mind up what fucking team you're batting for, asshole. You know what I mean? No, it can't fucking be fixed if they just all of a sudden just let everybody come here legally. That's not going to fix the fucking problem. Is it? How would that fix it? Yeah. Open the gate even more. It's not going to get rid of the NGOs. It's not going to get rid of the federal funds that are going to these NGOs. Now, is it? They would just increase that now also. Because now they're all legal. Now they're all legal immigrants. We got to help them. But fuck, if we're going to help the illegal ones, we're damn sure going to help the legal ones. Did y'all hear about the Home Depot security guard thing? Just happened? Let's see what we got here. Bum, 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 bum. Did you hear about it? I might not add it to the list. It was a real short one this morning. I like it. See if I like it. I liked it at least.
Jonathan Lee Riches investigates reporting from outside Home Depot. Some of you out there might want to know, why is JLR outside the Home Depot? Well, there was an incident in Chicago at the Home Depot, February 20th, 2024.
I'm just now hearing about it this morning.
Covering the border migrant crisis. And there was a serious incident that happened at the Home Depot on 87th Street in Chicago. 100 migrants attacked security officers at the Home Depot. Yes, and I'm going to share with you the dispatch call, 911 dispatch call. I'm going to share with you this because the mainstream media is not talking about this incident. Here is the dispatch call for that day, February 20th, 2024.
You can't see me.
Units in 6 and citywide. We have a 10-1-200 West 87th Street, 200 West 87th Street, the Home Depot. Call to there's over 100 migrants attacking security. Some of the security officers are off-duty police officers. Nothing further. Zone clear.
All right, if I have anybody close by 200 West 87th Street at the Home Depot, they're being called in as a 10-1. Over 100 migrants attacking security.
Over 100.
Now, for all units in 6 and citywide, we're giving a disregard for the 10-1 at 200 West 87th Street. Again, that's a disregard for the 10-1 at 200 West 87th Street, press 610, Adam.
100 migrants
Crazy.
attacked.
How is that not national news,
Depot.
man?
What the world was that about? Why are 100 migrants attacking a security people, whether it's one guard, two guards, security, set off-duty police officers? Why are they attacking them at the Home Depot? Why are 100 migrants at the Home Depot attacking? Well, I might have an idea. First off, Chicago is a sanctuary city, and a lot of the migrants that are crossing into the United States illegally end up in Chicago. A lot of them told me in Texas, where are you going? Where are you going? Chicago, Chicago, Chicago. So that's like a sanctuary city. So they got thousands of migrants there. I speculate out there that the reason why they were at the Home Depot was because a lot of the migrants that I've seen across the country, they kind of hang out in front of the Home Depot. They kind of congregate and loiter outside Home Depot, waiting for a job, waiting for people to hire them off the books, most of the time, off the books, right? To go do planting, right? Planting out in the farms or building construction. And a lot of the contractors go to the Home Depot to find migrants that are willing to work cheaply, off the books, maybe even on the books, who knows. But I'm starting to speculate that because Chicago is a sanctuary city, hundreds of migrants probably loiter out front of there. And maybe it's a bad look on Home Depot. Maybe some of the customers started complaining. And when security rolled up on 100 migrants, or a group of migrants, or even just one migrant or two migrants, all of them, 100 of them, started jumping on security and fighting back. What in the world is going on at the Home Depot in Chicago? Have you heard about this incident? Because not one media outlet, I didn't hear it on MSNBC,
Yep.
I didn't hear it on CNN, I
Never.
didn't hear it on
It
Fox.
happened
Even though Fox has been covering
it happened
the
a week
border
ago,
crisis pretty
dude.
good.
A
But
week
nobody's
ago.
talking about this. What ended up happening? Did anyone get hurt? Did anyone get arrested?
Hey, Craig.
Is there any video footage out there? We heard the call, the dispatch call. Now that dispatch call is circulating online, but I didn't see any video incident. You would think 100 people on security, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And even if someone did get arrested,
Really, where's the
what do you
video?
think the
I can't believe there's any
consequences
video.
would be in Chicago,
Crazy.
or if it happened in New York, or if it happened in Los Angeles. What do you think the consequences would be for someone to attack a security person or persons at the Home Depot? Was it a theft incident? Were people trying to steal from the Home Depot? A lot of the migrants also work, and we're not stereotyping here, but it's be real. A lot of migrants, do the farm work and do the outdoor stuff. And personally, I've seen migrants work hard, right? Well, maybe some of them were in the Home Depot trying to steal. Theft.
Oh, they would never
I
do
don't know what the
that.
theft policies
They
are
never
in
steal.
Chicago, but in
They just kick
California,
cops in the head.
San Francisco, You steal like under $1,000, the police don't come, right? Or $500 or something, under 1,000, you know. But it's kind of like a green light. Is that what's going on in Chicago? Or migrants out there stealing? Who knows? But I'm going to be looking more into this. Let me know your thoughts. Have you heard about this incident? Covering the border migrant crisis. I'm at Home Depot. I need to go get myself some bug spray and some pesticide for my plants. So I thought I would just do that report while I'm here. Subscribe to the channel, like, hit the notification button. And have you seen migrants congregating outside your local Home Depot, wherever you live in? And I do see it occur in Florida. Florida has a lot of orange fields. We will talk soon. JLR Investigates, and check out my playlist covering the crisis, the border migrant crisis.
Orange fields.
Until next time, stay safe.
What's that to do with Home Depot? They get their workers from Home Depot? Biden meets with congressional leaders. What is this? Biden meets with Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Mike Johnson, and Hakeem Jeffries. That's how they were doing it when they were trying to find the pick the peaker of the house. The peaker of the house. Yeah. I'm making words up now. Where is he? Are we doing this? Who's coming out? Biden's probably not coming out. Oh, yeah. Okay. Bro, my computer is a piece of shit now, apparently. I'm locking up. What the hell? Somebody asked in the Long Beach subreddit, is Long Beach more of a gay city or a dog city? What the fuck does that mean? I often have inner discussions about Long Beach being a dog city or a gay city. I want others to help me decide. I don't get it. Bubba! Legal bragging. Well, I read that. Door Vagina, what's up, man? Oh, I'm behind over here. Sis T, Mark Bass, Joker, Ted Thomas. Who am I missing? I gotta cut my grass later today.
No, I appreciate it. I want everybody to right? Like that's what we need.
The BP's been cutting the razor wire. What's he talking about? That's not new footage. That's footage from like a month or two ago. He hasn't been able to get that close to that fence in ages, dude, ever since the National Guard's been out there. That was the Eagle Pass fence. He uploads old footage all the time. Do 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 do. You realize that was old videos, alright? Okay. Good though.
Really? I thought it was.
Yeah. Okay. In his communication. Okay. Whenever it comes, so it's good to hear.
No, no, never mind. False alarm. Oh, do you guys hear about this? Oh, we're waiting. What the hell this is?
Adult migrants can stay in city-run shelters to 30 days. Migrants can reapply for shelter at a reticketing center in the East Village, but the landlord telling me these migrants were tired of waiting. They were tired of trying to sleep outdoors, and this was the best option he could provide for them. This basement behind this furniture store here in Queens that you can see is now, there's been a full vacate order. Nobody can go in, but this landlord telling me he felt horrible, he felt sorry for these migrants. He was trying to find some kind of option, some type of shelter for them, and they had been staying there in bunk beds, sleeping in shifts, only 2 bathrooms. In fact, he also told me he was trying to find porta potties for them because
how much he was
had
charging.
as many as 74 men sleeping in that basement. But right now we're trying to find out more information from the
they weren't
the
sleeping there
NYPD as
for
far as
free, bro.
what goes on from here and where these migrants will go. Again, we're being told as many as 74 men were living in this basement. Take a listen.
When I told them that they don't want to go, because they all say they don't want to go. They rather stay here than go back over there. Okay, I was trying to, you know, talk to them, talk to the guy who was in charge. He told me that he promised me that they will have a place for them. They have a place for them. This is what he told me. We have a place for them. They're going somewhere. I told him, are you sure of that? Because I don't want them to go back through the same thing again. That's why they're here.
And Adam, as I mentioned before, I spoke to the next door neighbor who said she was concerned about her safety, noticing all those e-bike batteries that were basically being charged next door to her property. Of course, you've been hearing all the headlines with fires started by these defective lithium-ion batteries, and that woman saying, I was just scared for my safety, for my property, for the house, and for my family as well. Adam, we'll send it back to you.
Wow, Melissa, just to be clear, the landlord's saying that he wasn't charging them, that he was just having them stay there for free?
Oh.
It was a donation system, you know, people pulling in resources, people pulling in money, but according to this landlord, who is a migrant himself, he was just saying, I felt horrible for these men. They had nowhere else to go.
But it wasn't free.
This was the solution I could provide, a basement with bunk beds, people sleeping in shifts. He said the city was just not providing another alternative for these men who had nowhere else to go. That is according to the landlord, and of course, you'll be hearing from him later today.
It's like a pretty decent house, too. If you got a basement, you probably got a pretty decent house.
Melissa Colorado, live on the scene there in Queens. Thank you.
So that's new. What else we got that's new? Oh, this was interesting. This is not related, but Jordan dropped a bunch of humanitarian aid to Gaza. Yesterday, I guess? Or last night for us, during the day for them. Pretty trippy, huh? I've never seen anything like it. Why are they throwing sand and shit, though? Oh, and this dude earlier, you might have missed it. It was when they were in the crowd. I called it the first time I saw it. It was at the very beginning. There's a guy with a stick. It looks like he's trying to fucking hit everybody with it. Wait. There he is, right here. This fuck. You see him? This guy. What's he doing? Why is he trying to whack people? I went. Alright, get back to work. Why is it in English, dude? It's a Jordanian ration. Interesting. Even they care. Hey man, I met some cool Jordanians back in the day though. The music really gets me pumped though. Now I'm ready to go fight for Ukraine. I mean, Palestine. Either one of them. You know what I mean? It's for a good cause. Man, did y'all see that fucking guy that burned himself, the airman? Man, I unfortunately was able to see the unblurred version of it. I don't recommend it. I don't know how the hell he stood up so long though. Holy cow, he stood up for a long time. And that first Palestine came out weak. When his whole head was engulfed, he started screaming the shit out of it. Oh my god, that was pretty crazy. That was like some shit you would see on Watch People Die back in the day. There was a subreddit called Watch People Die. It was only stuff like that. Or like somebody would, suicides were on there, accidental deaths were, a lot of accidental deaths were on there too, like car wrecks or people get ran over or electrocutions. But that's all it was people dying. I'm surprised that's even being allowed on Reddit, his unblurred version of it, because they got rid of that subreddit. I don't go out searching that kind of content. Like, I know there's other places you can find it, other websites and stuff, but it's not really my thing. It just gave me an appreciation for life that I needed at the time, just to appreciate living myself, seeing how fragile life was. And but I get it. A lot of people that probably went on there were going on there because they actually liked watching, but like they were like, yeah, another one, like it's that kind of shit. So I get why they took it down. Oh, they took Rotten down too. Well, maybe you can't find this stuff anywhere. There was maybe all the places that you used to be able to find it are down. They took Omegle down. But have you seen the unblurred version? Anybody seen it? I wonder what he used for propellant. Not that I'm thinking about ever doing that, because that shit did not look fun. I heard it's one of the most painful ways to go. I didn't even post it to Reddit because I was like, yeah, people don't really need to see that. They can see the blurred version of it. I didn't even post that one though. Oh, look, here's the one. They're going to show this basement. I think this is from 28 minutes ago. This is even newer. This is from that migrant basement.
Now, inspectors have discovered dozens of people
living
inside
who the hell is she?
In Queens.
Yeah, Richard
going on,
is
baby?
outside of that home in South Richmond Hill with more on this.
Titty
Richard,
popping out in a second, ain't it?
This is actually a furniture store, Chris and Bianca, and what building inspectors tell us was there were at least 14 bunk beds and more than a dozen other beds occupying both the cellar and first floor of that store.
Okay, so that's 36 beds. Now I can see there were 70 people
migrants who
that
have
didn't
now
shift.
been
That's about
vacated
right.
by that building department. We're going to show you some cell phone video from that furniture store owner who shows what these conditions look.
Fucking furniture store owner, dude. So he had all these mattresses. He probably had like a bunch of mattresses he couldn't sell. And he's like, fuck it, I'm creating a hotel in my basement for migrants. You know he was charging for this shit, dude. Donations only, wink wink, but we could really use some donations. Probably that type of situation. And you're more likely to stay if you donate.
Look like in that cellar. You can see dozens of people in these beds appearing as if they're waking up. Neither the Department of Buildings,
look at this thing. He built this for this.
Who was living in these tight quarters? But officials did confirm that they did fully vacate the building, both the first floor and the cellar where these people were sleeping, and an investigation is now underway. In that cellar, the FDNY says there was no ventilation.
Imagine being this guy's neighbors, dude, and seeing all these fucking people all of a sudden are like walking out. Oh, but it's the basement of a business, it seems, actually. So maybe it wasn't in a residential area, which wouldn't make it as awkward. Because imagine your neighbor all of a sudden just got like 70 people living with them. It'd be like it was a brand new apartment complex just got built or something, but none of them could speak English. That'd be crazy. But maybe it was in a business area.
There wasn't any natural light. The Department of Buildings has slapped
No,
the landlord with
what do you
two
mean no natural light? Oh, it has to have natural light? Interesting.
violations.
Men's Central Jail doesn't have natural light. They torture the shit out of those people. It is kind of torture, though, not being able to see outside. That's why I hang out in here so much. Dude, my living room doesn't have a window. I can open the door, but when it's cold outside, I don't want to open the door. So if I were to hang out in there, I have no natural light. I had to go to the kitchen for it. It was the first thing I was like, I walked in, I was like, what the fuck? What is this shit? I couldn't believe there was no window for the living room, dude. I hate it in there. Got this nice big window here. This is supposed to be. They changed the way this was before I moved in. They put this wall here. This wall not being here, this would have been the whole big old living room with a window in it, and it would have allowed natural light into that hallway, which is the living room, but it's more like a hallway. I fucking can't stand this place, dude.
We spoke to the owner of this furniture store again,
I'm here,
who
though.
told us he
Whatever.
was housing these migrants willingly inside the building. He says he brought the people living here in to give them work. We also spoke with a neighbor who did not want to show her face on camera. She claims she's been calling 311 for weeks about the amount of people living here and the number of e-bikes that she's been seeing in the building's backyard.
How many people? About 74 people.
And where were they staying?
They were staying in the store because the store is it's a big space. It's a big space. So we have bunk beds, you know, queen bunk beds, some of the twin bunk beds, just to make a space.
Queen bunk
for everybody
beds.
to fit, and we can have space to pray.
One day morning, I come outside, I see bikes in the
Oh, he
back.
just had to
That's
say
when I
that.
got
Space
along.
to pray.
When I saw the e-bikes, and then
Fuck
all over
that.
the news, you see that these e-bikes are exploding and they lighten up the whole block. Like nobody's safety he was concerned about.
Dude, that's a good point. That's a good point. Like, let's say one of them just like a lithium battery just exploded and like burned up some building in New York, like last week actually, and I think it's happened a couple times. And having a bunch of those just like stacked up next to each other like that, probably wouldn't like that either. Like, I don't want that next to my fucking house. Get them things away from me. They're not the safest contraptions, apparently.
Now, the building's owner does tell us that these were all men living here. They were all from West Africa. Again, he was housing them.
They were all from
willingly
West
to give them work.
Africa.
How long they were here? Questions we are trying to get answers from tonight. We are in the South Richmond Hill section of Queens. Richard Giacobas, Fox 5 News.
Dude, that's kind of sketch too. Having that many people from the same country in one spot, 70. Like, what if they're plotting on something? You know what I mean? Maybe we should have them a little more intermixed. You know what I mean? I don't give a shit if they got gang violence, whatever. You need to squash that shit. You're in America now. Everybody needs to be getting along. Welcome to America. That's a crazy. They were segregated like that. Can you imagine if we were doing that? Okay, all Venezuelans, you go to this one. All Mexicans, you go to this one. They probably have something to say about it if we were making them do that. Are we making them do it? I think we should. Where was I? I was over here. Here's another one. That.
This morning, California's San Diego County struggling with a surge in migrants there. At least 1,700 released onto the streets since Friday.
Oh, by the way, if you didn't know, Anthony was at the San Diego airport last night walking around talking to the migrants that had been released into the airport.
Including nearly 700 on Monday alone.
Bro,
that unprecedented.
Do you remember when it was like, do they even have, I need to know, did they all have passports or not? I think you should be asking them that. from now on? Do you have a passport? I'm curious if they're letting these people fly. I heard that they are letting them fly without passports, without official ID. They're somehow just showing their paperwork and like, okay, you can fly. If that's true, that's not cool. Is it? Remember how, dude, I remember I was on a flight going from Colorado to Texas, and this lady freaked out from this powder that was in her magazine. We were still in the, like, we hadn't taxied out yet. We were just sitting there in the plane. We were about to taxi out, start moving. And she showed it to the flight attendant. They deboarded our entire fucking plane, dude, because they couldn't identify the powder. Ends up, it was paper dust from the manufacturing of the magazine. And now they're just letting them, they have their own TSA lane. So it's as if they've been vetted by the Border Patrol. Oh, by the way, welcome, Anthony. Welcome to the stream, dude. Thanks for your coverage last night. I watched the land, man. I'm lurking all the time. Because I don't want to, dude, on days I'm not streaming, I usually don't want anybody talking to me. I turn into extreme recluse, and I'll just lurk in people's streams. Often. VIP treatment. They go around the surge. They don't have to go through the metal detector and X-ray machine. They don't, dude. They don't make them take their shoes off and go through the or the things like. They should make all of them do that because they don't have an ID. I mean, I get it. If they have a passport, that's different. They have a passport. They have an official travel document that has been vetted, and that they should actually be that person. If they look like the picture on that, it should, like, passports are pretty hard to fake, right? I mean, ours are definitely hard to fake, dude. There's all kinds of shit built into them. But other countries, I don't know. We even have like a chip in ours that got a plastic page in it. My new one, it's hard on the back. My old one wouldn't like that. They walk around. You block. Why did you get blocked, Cricket? See? How have I not blocked you yet? Were you saying shit? What were you saying, Cricket? I wish you two had chat history on it, chat logs. Then Anthony, go see why you were banned. Too bad soon because we have tons of people walking around. Yeah, well, what? They have state IDs or from other countries? Oh yeah, I'm watching this. Here we go. I'm sorry, I got sidetracked.
An influx comes after the county's Welcome Center ran out of money and closed its doors.
Schumer's talking.
And now, with most of those nearby shelters at capacity, local officials are questioning where arriving migrants will end up and whether or not there will be enough resources to cope with it. Joining us now is Bill Wells. He's the mayor of El Cajon, California, just outside San Diego. He's also a Republican congressional candidate. Mayor, thanks for being with us this morning. It's been a few days now since your city has run out of funding for the migrants. Paint the picture of the impacts on your streets this morning. What are you seeing?
I used to live in El Cajon.
Well, the truth is we really don't know. You know, about 4 months ago, they told us that we'd seeing about 300 people a day coming across. We thought that was a lot. And since that happened, the county did open a migrant center, which mitigated some of that impact. But now, at the same time, the Border Patrol tells us we should expect somewhere between 700 and 1,000 people a day. And that's at the same time that the county has run out of funding for their migrant center. So what we expect is to see a lot more people on the street. You know,
Jerry Springer is still alive.
We have been inundated with homelessness because of the laws of the state of California that have made it very popular to be homeless in California. So
it's always been popular here.
Our schools, our hospitals, everything.
And where are the migrants?
Here's the thing, though. I'm gonna continue soon, but a lot of the homeless people, like they want to get off the streets right now. Like they're trying to get in shelters and shit. Why did this just turn on out of nowhere? What the fuck's going on? But once it gets summertime, they're going to start leaving the shelters and living back in the streets, and so are these people, because it's going to be nice, warm, not raining. Right now, they're trying to take shelter because it's cold, and all the other cities too, like Chicago, Denver, New York. Once it's summertime, that's when that crime's really going to be hitting, dude. They're all trying to stay warm right now, man. Heat and poverty breeds crime.
Migrants being placed amid this shortage of shelter space in San Diego.
They're not being placed anywhere. They're being dropped off at three locations. One is at the border, one is in our town, one is up north at Oceanside. And we have been given no information about how to handle this crisis. So we're just going to have to, in some senses, wait and see whether or not they're going to dissipate and go to the airport and fly to other parts of the country, or whether they're going to end up on our streets and under our overpasses, which I kind of think might be the case. But we're going to have to wait and see. And at that point, we're going to have to react and try to avert a humanitarian crisis.
Yeah, and to your point, you know, the numbers here for your county have been staggering. I was reading your official mayoral statement just last night. You said in the past 5 months, you've seen more than 100,000 crossings. $6 million in county tax dollars were squandered without tangible results for any of your residents. What are you hearing from locals in this time?
People are afraid. They're not only afraid for their safety, they're afraid for the quietness of their streets and their neighborhoods, but they're also concerned of, like the case in Georgia where the young nursing student was killed. They're afraid for their lives, and then of course most people remember 9/11, and so they're afraid that some of these groups are nationalistic, and they'll organize and come back and hurt the United States in an organized fashion at some time, and they'll be right here. So I think all these are valid concerns. I know everybody brushes them off as being overly concerned, but I don't see why you would say that. I mean, especially in light of the violence you're seeing in New York and Georgia and places around the country.
Yeah, and we heard Georgia Governor Brian Kemp blame the White House directly yesterday, you know, for being responsible for that death because of their border inaction. Lastly, for you, sir, you know, President Biden and former President Trump both expected to visit the southern border on Thursday. Is the national spotlight on the border helping, do you think, or has the politicization of this issue made it more difficult to find solutions?
Well, I think we have to look at it closely. You know, news stations like yours are giving the real positive and realistic look at what's happening on the border. President Biden going down for a photo op way late in the game, knowing full well that this is not a mystery. He could solve this problem by tomorrow by signing the executive order and going back to the way things were under President Trump. I think people realize that he's just campaigning at this point, and I don't think people are buying it, but we have to keep talking about the border.
Yeah, well, Mayor Bill Wells of El Cajon, California, certainly thinking about you. Please keep us updated, and thank you for your time this morning on Morning in America.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinin.
A Colorado town pushing back on the surge of migrants arriving in Denver, which is about 50 miles away, unanimously voting not to be a sanctuary city. Officials in Monument, Colorado, passing a resolution to not accept any buses from Denver carrying migrants, saying they just can't afford the cost. and they will not use taxpayer funds. It comes after nearly 38,000 migrants arrived in Denver over just the past year. That is more than any other large city per capita.
Anthony, get up there to Denver, bro.
So let's bring in Monuments Mayor
They need you.
Mitch McKind.
Interview
Mayor,
some of those
thank you
people.
so
Why
much
do you
for
want to be
giving
up in
us
this
some of
cold
your time.
state?
First of all, just in your own words, what does it mean for monument officials to make this declaration?
Hi, Nicole. Thanks for having me. Our decision is not about discrimination or being anti-immigrant. It is about upholding the rule of law and ensuring the safety of our residents and making sure that our taxpayer dollars are being spent effectively.
And I think it's important to point out this passed unanimously. Were you at all surprised that there was no votes against this? Everybody agreed to this.
Not too surprised. The budget is balanced. There is no money set aside for the kind of issues that Denver is experiencing. It was never brought up during our budget workshops. So sticking to the fiduciary obligation we have towards our residents, it does not surprise me that we were all in agreement on how our money was going to be spent.
You know, and Mayor, so many American
Migrants
cities right now
with money can benefit. Not will, it's can, maybe, might. Where's their money going? Where are they spending it? When they make money here, are they sending it back home? Are they saving up so that they can move back home like a lot of these people are doing in South America? They're building fucking 3-story mansions, literally. CBN was talking about, the Christian Broadcasting Network talked about that dude that I was everywhere, man. I've been everywhere. That dude, he actually lives in Panama. So he does a lot of traveling down there, and he said that they're building fucking mansions with the money that they're making here. Not all of them are doing that. Some of them are just taking advantage of our public programs or NGOs and the federally funded NGOs that the tax dollars are paying for. Most of them are doing that. How can they drive? They're driving illegally. That's how they can drive. Who's going to stop them? It's a traffic ticket. They're driving without a license in New York. I don't know. They're on a moped. Nobody gives a shit, apparently.
Impacted by the migrant crisis. As I said at the top of this, Monument is only about 50 miles away from Denver. Do you think this resolution will stop what's happening in Denver from happening in Monument, or is this more about trying to slow what could ultimately be inevitable?
Well, I'm hoping that it will stop it. I'm hoping that Mayor Johnson has heard the message. It's been broadcast multiple times. However, a city just southwest of us by about an hour and a half, Canyon City, has already received 2 vans from a nonprofit of illegal immigrants.
That's their loophole. That's how Denver gets away with it. They say that they're not, I've seen this before. They say that they're not sending them directly, that these people are hearing from word of mouth that that's the place to go, that had some programs where they could get put up, get some food, and the NGO facilitates it by giving them a ride in the van where they want to go. All these people are like, yeah, I want to go down there. I want to go another too. Yeah, sure. And the NGO drives them, federally funded, for gas money and everything to get wherever they need to go. Tax-free, probably. Everything. Like the vehicle or whatever. They all have like the same white GMO-y looking van, it seems, too. What's up with that? That government issue?
Hoping that the smaller communities like ours in Canyon City are not going to be impacted by what Denver's doing, which is
NGO. I mean,
they're kicking out these immigrants after 42-day stays up there, and it's really not sustainable.
Mayor, what would you like to see from the federal government?
Well, the federal government needs to take action. They've had the ability to take action all along, and they've not done that. They've allowed the borders to remain open, and they need to shut them down so that we can all collectively figure out how we're going to deal with the influx of the immigrants that
what they're doing. I think is what they're doing is they're taking advantage of any city that that helps the homeless. If they have programs for American homeless, they're going to go there because they know that they'll help them there until they overrun their homeless system. And these people are like, yo, we had this program here because it's wintertime and it's cold and we don't really have that many homeless people up here during the wintertime anyway because it's fucking Denver. It's Colorado. I don't know where he's at, but you know what I mean? So they're not used to this influx of homelessness. That's why they were so giving with their homeless money in Denver, because in Denver, you got to be a hardcore motherfucker to be homeless out there, dude. It's really easy and cheap to get on a Greyhound bus and make your way to California. I know because I did it from Chicago. Okay? It's cheap. It's easy. It only takes a little while. And you'll be here, and there are programs here that'll help you. I know because I took advantage of them as an American, you know what I mean? But they are taking advantage of them. They're hearing about these same programs in fucking Ecuador, in China, and all over the world, and they're coming and taking advantage of them. Dude, that's what's happening right now. It's crazy. It's fucking nutty, dude, that it's being allowed to happen. And it's causing these places that help out their own homeless to not be able to help out their own people anymore because they're being overran with non-citizens. The fucking idiots on Reddit. There's so many idiots on Reddit support all of it. They support it. They want it to happen.
There are a lot of critics of this type of legislation.
It's mildly infuriating.
This type of resolution. There's an ethics complaint that's been filed against you, allegations of misuse of taxpayer funds. It's an unrelated matter. But do you think this latest migrant resolution could cause critics to take a closer look at everything you and your administration is doing?
Well, I hope not. I don't think so.
And do you think enough is being done by the government to try to address this? We know that there has been attempts to try to address this.
Like
there hasn't been a lot of progress made.
Well, I don't know what the federal government is doing on a regular basis. I know they've been in communication with various governors. Even Governor Polis was at the White House this past week, asking for the government to step in.
Not Denver. I don't miss Denver.
I don't think they're doing enough quickly enough to avert the amount of people that are coming in.
All right. Well, the mayor of Monument, Colorado, Mitch LeKind, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I was in the burbs.
Watching. Go to newsnation.
I was in the burbs in like a city north of Denver also, but never actually. And Denver is a shithole. It's blue, ran as shit right into the ground. It's been like that for a while. Good music scene though. Are people still talking? I was curious. There's no way. Okay, that's done. Kind of curious about what that was though. So I might go back to that. Jonathan or Lee Richards. Look at that. Hey, Anthony, did you hear about this? 100 migrants that attacked security at Home Depot. Are you still here? Bueller. Sorry, save me a second. I get my. Oh, wait, it's right here. Okay, so we're good, man. Where am I at? Oh, yeah, I'm in the wrong list. Send them back to where they came from, you say. Yeah, I mean, see if I find another video.
Productive meeting on the government shutdown.
That's what this was about.
We are making good progress. We made it very clear. The speaker said unequivocally he wants to avoid a government shutdown. We made it.
Fucking idiots, dude. It's always with this shit, isn't it? Right. I might listen to more of that in a second. Not right now, though. More important shit.
U.S. President Joe Biden says Israel has agreed to halt military action in the Gaza Strip over Ramadan, the Muslim holy month that begins on March 10th. He made those remarks on NBC's Late Night with Seth Meyers. This came as Arab countries have voiced fears. Should the fighting continue into Ramadan, it will further stoke regional tensions. And while momentum on ceasefire negotiations gathered pace in Qatar. On the show, Biden revealed there was an agreement in principle for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, which could be in place by this time next week. He said such a pause would give time for remaining hostages Hamas captured on October 7th to be released. The group took over 250 hostages when it stormed across southern Israel on October 7th and killed over 1,200 people. Israel's subsequent ground assault led to nearly 30,000 people killed, according to Gaza health authorities. In his late-night appearance Monday, Biden said Israel risks losing support from the rest of the world. He added that the Israeli government made a commitment to him to try to evacuate large portions of Rafah, which has millions of displaced Palestinians who fled other war-torn parts of Gaza before Israeli forces move in to target what he called the remainder of Hamas. The last deal to suspend fighting came in November, where Hamas released more than 100 hostages and Israel freed about 3 times as many Palestinian prisoners. In recent weeks, both Israel and Hamas have publicly maintained positions that are far apart for a potential truce, while blaming the other for delays. Israel continues to say it will not end the war until Hamas is destroyed, while Hamas says it will not free hostages without an agreement to end the war.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to end anytime soon.
As Biden gears up for a bid at re-election this November, he has seen support among young Americans and left-leaning progressive voters sink as a result of his staunch support for Israel and the sky-high death tolls in Gaza.
An uncommitted vote is a protest vote.
Well, where I saw this. Oh my gosh, these buttons are fucking stupid. They have a delay on them. What's that? I don't know why it's on here. Watch this.
A college student, Laken Riley, was murdered, allegedly by this illegal migrant from Venezuela. He entered the country in 2022. Brandon Judd joins me now. Brandon, Venezuela is no longer accepting flights of deported migrants. So what happens to them?
Well, this shows where we're failing, where Biden fails extensively.
Yeah.
He does not have a plan for the future in case things like this happen. The State Department has the right to negotiate agreements with other safe countries so that we can send people to those countries. Yeah. He also has the right to put more pressure on Mexico to accept these people back to. So there's a lot that the State Department can do,
take them.
but that's the administration failing to look to the future to see what is going to happen if the country refuses to take their citizens back. But there's a lot that we can do. It's just that Biden just doesn't have the fortitude to do what's necessary to secure our borders.
Wait a second, Brandon. Biden got a deal with Venezuela. If they would hold free elections, we could get their oil and we'd give 800,000 of them special treatment to come to America. That deal is completely broken down. And look at the violence and crime that we've got because of that deal. This is a disgrace for the Biden administration.
It is. And Laken Riley's death falls directly on Biden's head because he's allowed this to happen. Again, he has not looked to the future. He has not anticipated what would potentially happen if a country backs out of certain agreements, if they don't follow through with their agreement. We always have to recognize that if we enter into an agreement with another country and they fail to uphold their end of that agreement, what are we going to do? And that, again, it's where he fails. He doesn't play chess very well.
What's the state of play on the border
checkers,
right
probably.
now? I'm told that the numbers crossing are down. Is that accurate?
Rasheed Johnson taught me that.
That is not accurate when you compare apples to apples. We don't compare January to December. We compare January of 24 to January of 23. And when you look at January of 24, we were up 12% in apprehensions over 23. And by the way, Stuart, we set a record in 23. So we're on pace for another record in 2024. Every single year that he's been in office, we have set records for apprehensions. We've set records for gotaways. We've set records for deaths. Everything that is bad on the border, we continue to set records under this president.
If he wanted to, the president could cut the flow right now with executive orders. Do you expect him to?
No, absolutely not. And the reason that I don't is because he doesn't want to lose that large base of support that wants open borders. When you look at his underwater polling, yes, he's very underwater, but that 30% of the people that approve of what he's doing, that is his base of support. And if he goes against that base of support, they don't show up to the polls, he has no pathway to victory.
And the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, says that Biden is conducting a master class in government. Hold your laughter. Brandon Judd, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We do appreciate it, sir. Thanks a lot.
So Mary Catherine Ham is here. She's an Outkick columnist. And MK, welcome back here. You were a student of the University of Georgia, and you say you ran this trail every week that you were in college. Just tell us about that. Let's begin there.
Yeah. It's a bit of an emotional connection because I can see myself in this person, right? She's a former University of Georgia Bulldog. She's running this trail that I ran every single week. I know exactly what it feels like to be there, and it felt safe. It felt safe for a reason because there hasn't been a homicide on campus in about 30 years. And now her family tragically is facing this. The community is facing this. The University of Georgia also had another student die by suicide this week. So it's been really hard on the Bulldogs, and my heart is with them, and especially with their families. But the fact is that the facts of her case and the suspect who was arrested is more than a political football. We don't want to cheapen it by not talking about this wonderful student whose pictures at tailgates and finishing half marathons. She won't get to live past that. That's this incredible tragedy. I want to honor her life. But the media needs to talk about the facts of the case. And many sources are sort of just leaving out that this person was in the country illegally and did have arrests already on the books in his past inside the country. He crossed illegally. He then says he wants to apply for asylum. He's in New York. He's arrested partly for endangering a child. And then he's released because in New York, you're released very quickly and nothing gets to ICE, right? So look, people have to acknowledge, particularly media, whose job it is to use the facts, acknowledge that when you're letting millions and millions of people in, 10,000 per day in some cases, they're unvetted. It doesn't mean that all of those people are going to commit violent crimes, but it does mean that some of them will, and that those crimes were preventable. Yeah. This young woman was failed by every level of law enforcement, including in Athens, Clarke County, which is a sanctuary city, where people, the DA there promised to treat illegal immigrants with kid gloves. So when someone comes under arrest, what happens after that? And what does that mean for the people in that community and for their safety in the future? Yeah.
A couple things I'm going to get to. You mentioned some of the early reporting. We knew he was an illegal. And we actually had information that he had been arrested in New York.
They're not protecting us, man.
We're still calling him an Athens resident. Here's one headline from the AP. Right. The killing of a nursing student out for a run highlights the fears of solo female athletes. They're supposed to protect us. That's their job. What in the hell is that all about?
I mean, this story was wild because I read the whole thing. First of all, this is a real fear, right? I used to run that path. When I run alone, I think about these things. There's no attempt to contextualize statistics or anything in that piece that might be helpful to female runners. What they do is they take a sample size of two tragic murders of female runners, Laken Riley and Molly Tibbetts in Iowa a couple of years ago in 2018, and then they don't mention that either one of them, the thread that actually connects those two is that both suspects, one serving a life sentence, were illegal immigrants. So maybe we should deal with that fact. Perhaps you're missing the story because you're trying to turn it into another story because you don't want to deal with the fact that this reflects badly on the policies that are in place during this administration. But if we do not deal with the policies that are bad in this administration, bad things will continue to happen.
Yeah. Another point here. If you were to drive, 100 miles to the east from Athens, Georgia, you'd hit the South Carolina border, maybe not even that far. And what we saw on Saturday night, first of all, here are the border crossings during the Biden years, not 7.9 million, and they're not done yet. As we know, 8 or 9 more months to go, maybe longer if there's a second term, 2.4 under Trump. 50% of those in South Carolina listed immigration as issue number 1, MK.
Yeah, I mean, it's an issue for a reason. People don't like chaos. Americans are overwhelmingly kind and welcoming, right? Everybody references the poem on the Statue of Liberty. That is part of our national character. It's also part of our national character and perfectly rational to want people to enforce laws and to want to have some order. And when people see 10,000 entries a day sometimes and untold numbers that aren't even counted, right? They go, what exactly is happening here? They also look at how differently they're treated. For instance, the fact that in New York, they're going to hand out debit cards with untold amounts of money on them at taxpayer expense. People are covering hotels. There are American residents, American homeless folks who cannot live in these hotels on taxpayer dime, and yet illegal immigrants are allowed to. So people are looking at this and going, exactly what's the deal here? What is my government doing? What's its plan? Is it interested in protecting me? And I think that's what many people at the University of Georgia can look around and say, are you interested in protecting me? And
that's what I was just saying. They're not protecting us, dude.
You're exactly right about that. I'll just make 2 final points, but we got to go.
That's their main job.
Part of the reason why you give the debit cards is they don't have jobs, they don't have money. And so there will be a small percentage that may act out at a crime. And the reason why you do the debit cards is try and keep the crime levels down. And if you're going to start with a pilot program now, it's going to go 2x, 5x, 10x before it's all over. Just one quick thing here, okay? We're not painting with a broad brush, all right? New York Post editorial, when so many laws are ignored, how can anyone be surprised when it leads to even more lawlessness? The argument is not that all migrants are bad because of one murder. It's that one murder illustrates how corrupt and broken the system has become. End quote there. It isn't the first time. Hopefully, well, it may not be the last either as we look at this story going forward. Nice to have you on and get your perspective.
We need to be truthful about it. We need to be truthful about it and stop incentivizing the lawlessness. That's where the problem comes.
Appreciate you coming on. Mary Catherine Ham, thank you.
The New York Post has been being pretty real with it lately. Haven't they? Ooh. Exciting.
¿Quién es mejor para el inmigrante ilegal? ¿Donald Trump o Joe Biden?
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. ¿Cuál es mejor, Trump o Joe Biden?
Joe Biden, de igual manera.
Joe Biden. Trump or Joe Biden?
Joe Biden.
Trump or Joe Biden?
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. Trump or Joe Biden?
Es el Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. We're asking for Joe Biden to help us accomplish our dreams here, and so we can get ahead.
Migrants near the southern border in Arizona revealing which presidential candidate they prefer when it comes to illegal immigration, as both Trump and Biden are heading to the border this week on Thursday. Fox and Friends Weekend co-host Rachel Campos Duffy talked to those migrants and is here with more from her exclusive reporting.
We're on an Indian reservation right at the border. This is a soft shelter. This is the first stop for these illegal immigrants. Then they're getting loaded on buses and taken to deportation centers to be processed. Let's go in and see if we can talk to some of them.
¿De dónde vienen? Where are you coming from? De Puebla, Mexico. What do you expect to do now that you're here in the United States? I'm looking for a safe place for the children. But she's afraid of the violence where she lives.
Yo, I gotta stop it right now. Like, I'm looking for a safe place for children. Oh yeah, where are you moving to? Chicago. All right. Good luck with that. That's probably worse than where you just came from.
I'm asking her what she wants to do for work. She said she'll do whatever work she can find. Why did you decide
and that
to do it
includes
this way?
sucking cock. Bro, a lot of them are getting caught up in sex work in New York. There's been a story on it.
Not the official way. I feel like it's urgent to get out of where I was at. My neighbor was killed. I did it for my children. Since I used to be.
My neighbor was killed. My neighbor was shot to death 5 years ago, and I got the end of it on stream. So the old heads know that shit happened, dude. They were trying to resuscitate him and shit. I heard the gunshots. It was right here. So, and it's expensive to live here. Homie.
Policeman and had threats against me. I just want my son to escape the delinquency and the crime in Mexico. He said the cartels are worse than ever now because of just so much corruption. Everyone I spoke to here is Mexican. At least they say they're from Mexico, as far as we know. They all say the exact same thing. I'm escaping.
Oh, those are all Mexicans?
Crime. I'm escaping threats to my wife from.
Because they're Title 42 ended, so now Mexico can come in.
The cartels have never been stronger. That corruption is at its sky high.
They were kicking Mexico out with Title 42.
This operation, this human trafficking operation, is fueling that. This is from Guatemala. ¿Cuántos años tienes?
18.
He's 18 years old. He plans to be a painter when he gets here. ¿Y tus padres dónde están? Where are your parents?
En Guatemala.
In Guatemala. ¿Tú vienes con otra familia? Do you have other family here?
Solo.
Solo. Estás triste, yo veo.
Más o menos.
I asked him if he's sad, and he said yeah. He says, I came from Guatemala. It took me about a month to get here. So his wife is pregnant, and his daughter tiene 5 años?
No. Dude, they say they're sad, so you give them $10 and a bag of Doritos.
Who's waiting for you in Florida?
Un tío de mi esposa.
His wife's uncle. He's going to Davie, Florida, and this is how he knows. He's got the phone number, and this is how he knows where he's going.
He hasn't got the memo. Florida doesn't want him.
His wife is traumatized from what happened. They kidnapped him for about a week. They stole all of our money. He said that when he was kidnapped, it was immigration, U.S. immigration, that found him, and they were able to escape that way. He was walking for about a month. He's come from Ecuador. ¿Cuánto pagaste para poder venir? How much did you pay to be able to come here?
Gastaba creo que como $3,000 arriba.
About $3,000. She claims that she didn't have to pay anyone to come over, that she just came on her own. I have no idea if that's true.
No, es por todos.
Por todos. He says he paid about $5,000 for it. He said I sold the car to have enough money to cross over. ¿Cuántos días para llegar?
Big deal.
Casi el mes.
Took me about a month to get here. Seguro en El Salvador que aquí.
No, yo digo que está más seguro aquí.
I asked him why he didn't just go to El Salvador, which seems to be pretty safe. It's the safest place in the Western Hemisphere. And he said, well, he heard it was safe here too.
Oh, dude, I didn't know that. El Salvador is the safest place in the Western Hemisphere? So she just said. Which Western Hemisphere? That thing. El Salvador, safe. I'm looking into it. Violent link crime. What is she? Is she being a fucking? Is it? Is it safe or not? Was she being weird? I don't know, man.
So Ainsley, many of the stories that they told me sound very much the same. They're clearly being coached by the cartels, but they're also being coached by government, U.S. government-paid NGOs. And what I gathered from this trip, what really struck me the most is that these massive waves of immigrants that are coming through, it is impossible to process them without the help of these NGOs. And these NGOs have the added benefit of being able to operate in secret, in a way without the same kind of oversight that, say, a government agency would have. And so, you know, look, everyone's making money. The NGOs are making money. The hotels that they eventually end up in are at full capacity, charging 2 to 3 times the rate to the U.S. taxpayers. And then, of course, the Democrat Party, the U.S. government gets what they want, which is a new wave of immigrants, perhaps future voters.
It's hard
to see why they would want this.
Yeah. I heard that all the hotels in Denver are rented out because of this. Denver has the most per capita of any city that's gotten migrants. And so their infrastructure isn't prepared for it like the other major cities are. I heard that all their hotels are sold out. So if you want to go vacation in Denver, apparently you look up one of their hotels. Are they outlandish? Are they like $200-300 now to get a hotel out there? I haven't checked. I'll check.
When you see all the shelters set up in the buses and they say, here's our chance, this is our chance to escape wherever we were originally from. And then you hear them say they support Joe Biden. I mean, it's obvious that they see this as this is the time. They have, what, 9 more months until until Donald Trump could be back in office, and this is the chance. And then also these other countries, why aren't they cleaning up their acts? They're having to sell cars and pay money. These cartels are in charge. There's so much corruption. It should be up to these other countries to clean up their own governments. Thank you so much, Rachel. You've done an amazing job.
We've got a welcome sign, so
exactly.
That's why they're taking this opportunity.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much. You're the perfect person to go down there since you speak Spanish. You can understand it. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Yeah, I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade. They think we want it to happen. Check this out. There was a guy. This dude got shot in a convenience store for not giving a guy a free black and mild. He was working there. Seemed like a decent dude. But it seemed like a migrant, maybe. I don't know. But it seemed like he was just fed up with this one homeless guy, maybe, or whatever. I don't think this guy's a migrant. It seems like he could be. I don't know. What do you think?
Police are now looking for the gunman who shot and killed a worker at a bodega in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. This surveillance image of the suspect was released by police late this morning. CBS News' Christina Fan reports the victim's family says it began with an argument over a cigar.
The deli has reopened, but the workers inside were too shaken to speak. The victim's mother tells us her son was shot and killed by a customer who refused to pay. Grieving customers laid down candles and flowers in front of a mean deli Tuesday morning, where 37-year-old bodega clerk Nazim Berry was fatally shot the day before. Neighbors unable to understand how the gunman could be so callous.
He was humble. He helped everybody out here. The kid worked in all these little stores just to make extra money. He didn't bother no one at all. This hit hard. This hit hard.
Barry's heartbroken mother, who rushed to the corner of Franklin Avenue and Lincoln Place Monday night, said her son's death was all over an unpaid cigar.
The guy asked him to buy him a black and mild, and he said no, and they started to argue.
Barry's mother wasn't here at the time, but says his co-workers told her the customer left and then returned with a gun.
When the guy went to draw the gun, Nazim seen it, and they had a tussle over it. And they said that they tussled, and you know, when you bend down and you're tussling, and the guy pointed the gun right to the side of his head, the back of his head, and shot him. In this surveillance video, you can hear the sound of a single gunshot before someone is seen sprinting away from the scene.
I hope he gets apprehended, and I hope they throw the book at him.
You didn't have money for a cigar, but you had a gun?
Police say no arrests have been made. The United Bodegas in America is now offering a $10,000 reward for information that can lead to an arrest. In Crown Heights, Brooklyn, Christina Fan, CBS 2 News.
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to see if they're sold out or not. So if I select this one, what it says, I have to like complete booking information probably. I don't know. Maybe they're not all sold out, right? I might be able to get one for $150. It seems like a lot for a Marriott.
Clear that means not letting any of the government appropriations bills lapse, which means you need some CRs to get that done. But we're making good progress, and we're hopeful we can get this done really quickly. There are a little back and forth on different issues that different people want, but I don't think those are insurmountable. The fact that that we made it so clear that we can't have the shutdown because it hurts so many people in so many different ways, even for a short period of time, was very apparent in the room. And the speaker did not reject that. He said he wants to avoid a government shutdown. So that was very heartening. The meeting on Ukraine was one of the most intense I have ever encountered in my many meetings in the Oval Office. The four of us all together led. First person to speak was Leader McConnell. Well, the five of us, the President, the Vice President, Leader McConnell, Speaker, Leader Jeffries, and myself, made it so clear how vital this was to the United States. This was so important. And that we couldn't afford to wait a month or 2 months or 3 months because we would, in all likelihood, lose the war. NATO would be fractured at best. Allies would turn away from the United States. And the boldest leaders, the boldest autocrats of the world, the Putins, the Xis, the presidents of North Korea. I like the governor of North Carolina, actually. The presidents of North Korea and Iran.
They're all getting too fucking old to be in office, dude.
Was this soft, fat country that lost its way and would take advantage?
They're fucking slipping mentally.
So we said to the speaker, "Get it done." I told him this is one of the moments. I said, I've been around here a long time. It's maybe 4 or 5 times that history is looking over your shoulder. And if you don't do the right thing, whatever the immediate politics are, you will regret it. I told him 2 years from now.
No, you'll be dead eventually, though. So I mean,
because really, it's in his hands. It's in his hands. We told him how important it was. It was passionate. I talked about my trip to Ukraine, where I met soldiers who had Russian artillery in range with the drones they have, but had no ammunition to fire at. We talked about 4 brigades who were ready to go, Ukrainian, no arms, and how serious the lack of arms was. And it was the consensus in that room, Zelensky and Ukraine will lose the war if we don't get the arms and don't get them quickly. The speaker brought up the border. We made it very clear to him that we want to do something real on border. And in fact, we Democrats in the Senate supported a border bill that very conservative groups, including the Border Patrol agents, the Wall Street Journal editorial page, and Chamber of Commerce were for, but said to hold up Ukraine, which, as he admitted, was a national imperative, because you can't do something else which we all should work on, was a non sequitur. There was no logic. There's a logic to solving the border. We want to solve it. But we have to do Ukraine right now, because there's a weight that can get done quickly, because that has broad bipartisan consensus, and the border takes some more work, which we'll be happy to work on to get it done, but not hold up the Ukraine bill for it.
Senator Schumer.
Let me
first
please.
Thank President Biden for convening us for this very important discussion to address important challenges that are confronting the American people. It was an intense meeting. It was an honest meeting, and ultimately it was a productive meeting. We discussed 3 issues. First, the need to avoid a government shutdown and to fund the government so that we can address the needs of the American people in terms of their health, their safety, and their economic well-being. We are making real progress on the appropriations bills that are scheduled to lapse on March 1st. And I'm cautiously optimistic that we can do what is necessary within the next day or so to close down these bills and avoid a government shutdown. At the same time, it may be important to come to an agreement that's bipartisan and anchored in common sense to extend the pending expiration of the 8 additional bills that are scheduled to lapse on March 8th, so that good faith, tough negotiations can continue in the absence of a government shutdown. Second, we discussed the urgent national security priorities of the American people, as captured in the bipartisan, comprehensive, Senate-passed legislation.
How long was it?
This is an existential moment for the free world as it relates to being there for our democratic allies in Ukraine, in Israel, and in the Indo-Pacific, and also at the same period of time making sure that we provide humanitarian assistance to Palestinian civilians who are in harm's way in Gaza or in other theaters of war through no fault of their own. Third, as Leader Schumer indicated, we had an open, an honest, and a candid, firm discussion about the border. We all agree that we have a broken immigration system, and there is a need to address the challenges at the border in a thoughtful, bipartisan way. As Democrats, we support a safe, a strong, a secure, and a humane border. We just need our House Republican colleagues not to play politics and engage in political stunts relative to the border, but to sit down, as was done in the Senate, and enter into good faith discussions about fixing our broken immigration system. As Democrats, we stand ready to do just that.
Dude, whatever, man.
Made this meeting one of the most intense you've ever had.
The urgency of supporting Ukraine and the consequences to the people of America, to America's strength, if we don't do anything and don't do anything soon. I was so shaken by what I saw at the border. I was strengthened by the strength of Zelensky and the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian soldiers, but shaken that here they are fighting without arms against a brutal dictator who will just do anything to kill them. And the intensity in that room was surprising to me. But because of
Russia's run out of shit too, man.
Vice President, Leader Jeffries,
can't they just
Speaker
fight with
Leader
swords?
McConnell and myself, it was. And Johnson tried to answer, and he made it clear he wants to do something on the border. But we made it clear to him we can't tarry.
Both
but the war could be
sides.
lost. And
Both sides should fight with chainmail and swords again.
Tough, secure
Take
border
that shit
plan,
back. We're not giving you any more missiles.
in the Senate, but he can't say it won't do Ukraine until we get border. He's tried to do border for 6
Y'all
months.
want to fight each other? Do it like men.
That's enough. Next one. Next one. Yes.
No balls. Fuck that. No. We're taking this shit medieval. Bow and arrows.
Let me make it clear. We made the overwhelming sentiment in that meeting is we got to do Ukraine now. And there are other issues, including border, which we should address, but not now. And there was a discussion in the room that could you do border just by administrative action. I think Biden won that argument because he said you can't do it, we all said, without personnel. And you need legislation for personnel. And even the Republicans in the budget asked for more money for personnel at the border. So it was clear that we want to fix border. But it was also clear the Speaker didn't give a reason why you had to do one before you did the other. Thank you.
Congressman Pope Francis on Sunday called for it, sir. Thank you.
We gotta do one before the other because we need to know that you're gonna fix the border somehow. You fix the border first, and then deal with Ukraine because we matter more than Ukraine. That's why. What do you mean you don't know why, you asshole? I know why, and I'm a moron. He's just an asshole. He knows why. Well, that's it for that. No, it says.
The DEA is ratcheting up their war on fentanyl, but instead of focusing on drug dealers, they're targeting the product used to turn powdered fentanyl into pills. The agency is warning e-commerce sites to regulate sales of pill pressers or face serious consequences. And as our report shows, eBay has already been slapped with a $59 million fine for not doing enough.
This is the latest front in the DEA's fight against fentanyl, a high-speed pill press machine.
This one can produce approximately 100 pills per minute.
The DEA's Scott Olton says this machine is capable of pumping out 6,000 illegal pills an hour.
We see the entire gamut: pink, yellow, blue, purple.
Hundreds of similar presses were seized by federal law enforcement last year.
We seize these all over the U.S., whether it's the basement, a warehouse, a home, a garage, a hotel room.
In a duplex turned drug lab in New York City, DEA says agents seized these presses along with 200,000 suspected fentanyl pills.
In the last 6 months, we've seized pill presses in New York, in Massachusetts, in Mississippi, in Kentucky. It's an industrial machine.
DEA Administrator Ann Milgram says many of the machines are purchased online. Today, the DEA is cracking down, telling the roughly 450 e-commerce sites to identify and report purchases as required under federal law.
Who is buying these pill presses online?
We have drug traffickers across the United States who are buying the pill presses. They have fentanyl, and they're using that fentanyl to make them into these fake pills.
Drug dealers also buy fake designs mimicking real pills like oxycodone.
How do criminals make counterfeit pills look real?
So what they do is they buy specific dyes and punch kits that have the markings that mimic pharmaceutical preparations.
Can I buy those online?
Yes, you can. You can get it for approximately $40.
A New York State intelligence bulletin obtained by CBS News assesses drug traffickers will likely increase domestic pill operations, driven by profits and the ability to maintain an undercover operation.
It is the leading cause of death for 18 to 45-year-olds.
Compounding an epidemic memorialized at DEA's headquarters.
And just here you see a 4-year-old, and then here there's a 70-year-old.
Yeah, that's James Cox. He is the oldest person on the faces of fentanyl wall right now, forever 70.
Sparing no demographic in America.
Over 70?
Nicole Skanga, CBS News, Arlington,
that black
Virginia.
dude was over 70? Man. He aged well.
Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Joe, that moment at the ice cream shop, I think, is an example of what happens when you don't hold a lot of formal press conferences. Reporters are forced to ask serious questions when you have an ice cream cone in your hand. And it's a moment that CNN's Jake Tapper also picked up on. Listen to what he said.
Just moments ago, President Biden was telling reporters that he hopes to have a ceasefire and hostage deal in place for the Israeli-Hamas war by the end of the weekend. That's a big announcement from the president to be given in an ice cream shop.
So what do you think about that imagery, which unfortunately somewhat overshadowed a really big comment that the president made?
I mean, it's all about optics, right, Carly, Todd? I mean, you watch the president with a big ice cream cone in his hands talking about hostages that, think about this, they were taken on October 7th. Think about all the months that have gone by since November, December, January, February, right? You are in the hands of these monsters. And here you have this elitist president in New York City holding a big ice cream cone talking about, hey, we may have a deal by the end of the weekend. He should be doing that in a press conference or in an Oval Office type of setting, not with Seth Meyers, the biggest fanboy on television that interviewed him last night. And just, it looks horrible. It looks out of touch. And this is why this president is now officially the underdog as far as winning back the presidency in terms of his reelection to Donald Trump at this point.
It's that word that I keep raising over and over again with you, Joe, the unseriousness of this administration. Put the cone down. I understand you got a question, maybe you want to answer. Put it down. Just don't appear so nonchalant. Thousands of people are dead in this war. Thousands more are probably going to die. This is kind of important stuff. There was an interview involved, not just ice cream. It was with Seth Meyers. Here are some of the questions and answers from that interview. Watch.
It was ice cream time, though.
There's a dark brand and conspiracy meme. And this is something that you seem to have a lot of fun with. You've co-opted. Do you enjoy playing around with the dark brand meme?
No, I resent the hell out of it.
Okay. And after the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, you posted this on social media and you wrote, just like we drew it up. Now, I have you on the hot spot here. Can you confirm or deny that there is an active conspiracy between you and Ms. Swift?
Where are you getting this information?
Thoughts on that exchange, Joe?
Well, NBC News keeps reporting that this was a surprise appearance, scare quotes, as if Joe Biden just decided to show up on his own recognizance out of nowhere. Hey, you know, I'm in New York City. I'm raising money. Let's go over to 30 Rock and just show up on Seth Meyers' set. I mean, that's the best part, because we've known about this for days. Obviously, it's been reported that he would be on there. And by the way, that wasn't live at 12:30 last night. That was taped at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This was obviously scripted, and the punchlines were fed in advance to the president's team. You could say, well, it's a comedy show, Joe. Who cares? No, I'm sorry. Even in this setting, you can't tell somebody what they're going to be asked, unless, you know, of course, you want to make them look good, and that's what Seth Meyers and his team did. Look, there's zero chance Joe Biden is nimble enough mentally to reach for his aviator shades that he happens to have on him, which yesterday in New York, at that point in the afternoon, you don't need shades, without it being practiced multiple times. Here were some of the other hard-hitting questions that we heard last night. You know, obviously we heard about, you know, hey, is Taylor Swift going to endorse you? I get it's a comedy show, but at the same time, there's so many important things going on in the country, and late night hosts tend to go into the political arena well, almost every night. Let's face it, Colbert, Kimmel, Seth Meyers, that they could have asked about the border and Joe Biden visiting there, or they could have asked about crime in places like New York City, or that food prices are still high. You can go and have a normal conversation with the president. They didn't do that last night. Seth Meyers was there to make Joe Biden look coherent and competent, and quite frankly, so many little people were watching that it probably won't make a difference at this point, guys.
Yeah, no, Joe, I think you're right, and it's a late late night show, so it's supposed to be fun and softballs, but there were some moments that went beyond partisan, like when Seth Meyers asked the president, former President Trump said that he'd be a dictator on day one. You've dealt with dictators before. How would you deal with that? It's like the Biden campaign is just saying, box check. Okay, he did a good job.
And Joe,
what an in-kind contribution.
And Joe, before we let you go, to your point, he talked about Dark Brandon on the show. You guarantee that if Trump were in that very chair, they would not be talking about let's go Brandon. Instead, they get all those tough questions that you mentioned that Joe Biden should have gotten. Joe Concha, got to leave it there. Always answering our tough questions.
Yes.
Joe, we thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
Meanwhile, President Biden and former President Trump both making trips to the Texas border this week, same day. Trump will head to Eagle Pass, where there is a problem, as Biden visits Brownsville. Our next guest is a Brownsville resident who shares this shocking video and so much more, which he says is a drug cartel, drug drop being made right in broad daylight. Deborah Bell joins us right now. Deborah, nice to see you. Is it going to be great to see the president?
Thanks for having me, Brian. I think absolutely the opposite. As soon as that article published yesterday on Fox News, I had a multitude of messages saying, why is Biden coming to Brownsville? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Why is he coming? Can we protest? People are not happy that he is choosing right now, out of all times, to come to Brownsville.
So right now, Bill Maloogian says crossings are down, 150, 250 a day, which might be high, but considering what else is going on the border, they're down 23%. Why do you think he'd go to a place where the crossings are down?
Crossings are down, but voting numbers are up, and people are not happy down here. In the past 8 years, we've had the highest Republican turnout show up in Cameron County. We've had some really great grassroots movement here, and I think the nation is taking notice. We just had Franklin Graham here over the weekend that drew a crowd of almost 4,000 people in Brownsville alone, spreading the message of hope. And then, of course, his tour was focused on the border. We have Eduardo Versteegi coming in on Friday, another conservative advocate, and I think Biden's taken notice that the trend down here is shifting, and people are very unhappy with what's going on.
You said there's actually a
fence. Especially when you see in that video.
Right, and the video that you provided is very telling. And you said so. Yeah, they actually have a fence that gets opened up to allow these people to come in and drugs to get across.
That is true. So we've got, I have a resident in an area in Southmost Brownsville that sent me a video, very unhappy. You see these people, the immigrants lined up on the other side, which is the American side still, but nevertheless, we have a wall there built to deter them. And when the federal government comes to pick them up, they enter the passcode and open the fence and then load them on the buses and take them to the nearest processing center. It doesn't make logical sense.
But what do you think he will see? Because if Border Patrol tells him the truth to his face, he'll be talking about the worst border in American history in a state that's paid the bigger price than any in the country. Do you think he's going to get that truth? Because he didn't get it last time.
Absolutely not. Everybody's talking, and I mean everybody, the residents, the agents, everybody's talking about how this is going to be a dog and pony show. He's coming at a wonderful time. We're in the middle of a Charo Days festival, which is a celebration between Matamoros, Mexico and Brownsville, Texas. And so things are going to look nice. The downtown area is already cleaned up, roped off. We're getting ready to have some really great parades and some real cultural celebration going on here. So things are already going to look nice. But whatever needs to be fixed will be fixed, obviously, for President Biden. And let's say if it wasn't fixed, he doesn't care anyways. He knows exactly what he's done to our country, and he's just coming to survey his damage.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's caught him by surprise as 71% of the American public look at it as a very serious problem, and 53% say now build the wall. I didn't think anybody could get the country to agree on so much so soon, but I salute you, Joe Biden. I appreciate it, and good luck, and I can't wait to see how his visit to your city of Brownsville goes. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I mean...
Jonathan Lee Riches investigates. I am covering the border migrant crisis. There's a situation going on in Acumba, California, a.k.a. Acumba. Some people call it Acumba. Some people call it Acumba. It is in San Diego County, California, right on the Imperial County line, on the U.S.-Mexican border. Thousands and thousands of people are coming in to the country illegally from Acumba, California. And once they cross into the United States illegally, there are local groups there, local volunteers, who seem to be possibly aiding and abetting these individuals that crossed in illegally. I'm going to share with you some clips on what's going on in Acumba, and then we will further discuss. Check it out.
Akuma Matata. This guy's got a fucking mohawk. Imagine breaking into our country with a fresh mohawk. Because that's like a Native American thing. Like, I don't know, what's he trying to say with that? Oh, that is a border carrying chick right here, yeah. I didn't recognize her. That are leathers. Whoa. Hey, Gino. Take some water, y'all. Brody, hey. I don't know. You like our makeup? Oh, this is Macron in France, and they are receiving the Qatari head of state in Paris. Looks kind of interesting, right?
Hard. They have hard with more money in them.
Tire la basura. Hay una lugar allí.
Pero ella no es señora.
I know it's him. But you just have to wait. Yeah, just let him know. Just wait in the front. No, I had her sit down. Just ¿Alguien quiere agua? Okay. You guys want some water? Okay.
That just ended because that lady is staring at something. That's over. I miss it.
If you can let him know, if you're going to come, you're going to have I know what's it. You'll see the station here.
Well, they're getting their car. Oh, Border Patrol's there. You can't get in the car. Where are you going? Right? I just got a big bulletproof vest. Macy's is closing 150 stores nationwide. Wow, that's a lot.
I counted 57. Did you send it?
Somebody stopped the Macy's parade one day.
They were running so many drugs throughout the year. Going down Blue Valley. Towards that. By the gun club. We're sitting there. We all got the
So what you saw there those are people that cross in the United States illegally, and then local groups are providing them water, food, shelter. Sometimes they sit in their cars to warm up or sit to get some rest. That's what's going on there. And there's a lot of controversy over that, because a little bit farther to the east in Sassabee, Arizona, there's actually local groups that are actually holding the border wall open for people to come in. Check it out.
Holding it open.
So what is your thoughts on local volunteers helping the migrants? Some people will say that's a good thing. Some people will say, hey, these people need help. If you don't help them once they crossed in, because Border Patrol takes a long time to process them sometimes, they could die, or they could get hurt, or malnutrition, or, starve, hunger, whatever. Other people think people are coming over because they know they'll get help and assistance by local groups. So there's two sides to the story. Trying to understand both sides of the situation. Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button, covering the border crisis. I'll be reading your comments, and check out my playlist. Been from border town to border town, port of entry to port of entry. Where the border's secure, where the border's not secure, the key hotspot locations where people are coming in illegally. I know where they're at, and check out the playlist, and that will show in each state: California, New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas. We'll talk soon. JLR Investigates. Stay tuned.
What else we got? Is this a different one? Or the same story from another day?
Brandon is inside Beverly Vista Middle School as we speak. He wants to reassure students that the district is taking this seriously. He also says that students have been getting instruction about all of this in class. And unfortunately, he tells us that some students used AI to superimpose the faces of class.
This is so stupid. Like, they can't superimpose somebody's face with Photoshop. What's the difference?
Classmates on naked bodies, and those were then circulated via text. And he also says, unfortunately, they were very realistic. The superintendent, Dr. Michael Breggy, calls it an appalling misuse of the technology. And he tells us that he became aware of the issue last Wednesday here at Beverly Vista Middle School. Parents got an email saying that administrators are still investigating how many people were involved and how many victims there were. But the superintendent tells us in both cases it was more than
What's concerning is it's where is the AI getting nude, like, I don't know how young it's doing it. You know, what is it really doing that? Is it really like doing like a 14-year-old girl? How does it have that information, and where is it getting it from in the internet? And like, that's why I'm like, that's a little concerning. Because Photoshop, to do it, you're gonna have to either you already have some bullshit that you're playing with, and that's a charge. That's illegal. But like, is this AI not illegal to do that, to create that? I mean, I guess if you're a kid, it's not. But why is the AI even doing it?
Behind the images will face consequences, including possible expulsion. The district
So
also
punish
says
the
the
kids
laws
for
are not
using
keeping
it,
up
not
with technology,
the
so this
AI
might
for
not qualify
having it.
as a crime. Here's what else the superintendent had to say.
While there might be some gray area in what's considered to be real, what is most important to me as a superintendent is what does this look like and what is real to these students? Because when you come here and you feel not safe and you feel like you've been
water to boil.
violated,
Hold
or
up,
that somebody has done something to make you feel uncomfortable as a child in our school district, that's what matters to me. For the lawmakers, that's what we're going to do in the future, but right now, that's the most important thing to me, is to make sure every student here feels safe and protected and understood.
And Dr. Breggy tells us he is getting calls from superintendents from all over the country concerned about this technology. And he is calling on lawmakers, and he hopes other educators will join him to regulate this technology. He'd like to see some safeguards put in place so that children, minors, cannot use it to create pornographic images. And again, he is calling on lawmakers to act. He says that is the only way to protect our children. And in the meantime, he also says parents should check constantly their children's cell phones and be sure to know what's on it, and to have conversations with their children about what they will and will not tolerate, and what is not okay. Live in Beverly Hills, I'm Christy Fajardo. Let's send it back to you.
All these conversations that we never had growing up, right? That now we have to have with our own kids. Christy and Sandra, it's on my mind
it's
constantly.
A brave new world.
So important.
Yeah.
It is. It's a whole new world. I don't really know how to live in it. Trying to figure that out.
It was 11:11. Are you excited about it? I mean, either. Gotta check the noodles in. Whoa. In 4 minutes. Why do you get rid of all this stuff? All right. Oh, what? Do we worship? Worship the babies. All right. Where are we at here now? How many more downloads have I gotten? I'm just curious. See the pulse of Reddit. Come on, man. At the bottom now? Where am I? I'm only at -1. I got lost in the shuffle. Yo. Yo, yo, yo. Yo, 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 yo. Yo, yo, yo. Yo, yo. Oh, do I have this? Yeah, never mind. False alarm. Oh, wow.
People who have nowhere else to live can now live in their vehicles and sleep in them overnight on streets here in the city of San Diego. Before now, you were at risk of fines, towing, and even arrest if you slept in your car or RV overnight.
But the city has now come to an agreement in a class action lawsuit to stop enforcing overnight parking laws. CBS 8's Anna Laurel joins us live from the street in Kearny Mesa where people park their RVs overnight. Anna.
That's right, you guys. Here behind me on just this little city block, there are nearly a dozen RVs parked out here, more than a dozen cars. You can tell people obviously live in them. Before now, for years, they have parked out here overnight at their own risk. They could get towed, tickets, fines, even arrested. But right now, if there is nowhere else for them to park overnight, they can park out here on any city street.
This is a class action. That class is everyone who's lived in their vehicle at any time from 2017 to the present. Their only shelter is their vehicle. Then they're part of our class, and that relief applies to them.
Tickets and fines forgiven, laws suspended, and a promise from the city of San Diego to create more parking lots for homeless people and improve one existing lot. Those are main points in the city's settlement agreement in a class action lawsuit filed by attorney Ann Menashe 6 years ago.
It's complicated. It was very, very complicated.
The class action suit challenged city ordinances that prohibited people from living in vehicles and parking oversized vehicles like RVs on city streets between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Because of the settlement, these city signs all over town will even come down.
Now they won't have to move their vehicle at night.
You should not have a problem with the VHO if you're a law-abiding person.
It gets to stay there.
Police believe a crime is being committed in the vehicle. Well, that's a different story. But Menashe and the people she's represented all these years say people living out of their vehicles are doing so because it's their last resort.
They are very conscientious and honest and law-abiding people. By not fining them and and arresting them and criminalizing them, they're going to have much more opportunities to improve their situation.
It's so expensive when a vehicle is impounded. If it's a motor home, there's a towing fee, there's a storage fee, and there is a lien placed on the vehicle. And so it's a minimum of
She's fucking clueless if she thinks that like a majority of these people have got their shit together and aren't drug addicts. Come on, man. No, I just don't buy it.
$1,000 to get your home back.
Stephen Chatsky is one of 11 people named in the suit.
This agreement allows.
There might be a couple. Like they got this guy, right? He's not a drug addict. Hey, let's talk to him. It's perfect. It's good for our story.
So many people into feeling productive and to feeling part of the citizenry of San Diego.
In a statement, the city of San Diego says the settlement is a positive step forward and agrees, but believes the fight for the homeless is far from over.
They're renting these things out.
Instead of blaming the victims of the crisis, they need.
They're not just renting them out. They're renting them out, broken down. They can't even drive. They can't even like operate. They get them to a location and they set them up like a mobile, like a trailer park home. You know what I mean, like it's not supposed to move anymore. And then they just, dude, that's what's going to happen to San Diego now. They didn't learn from our mistakes. Now we're starting to reverse some of that stuff here because we're like, what were we thinking?
To fight for what everyone needs, which is decent, affordable housing.
Now, the city and the citizens in this class action lawsuit have all come to an agreement on this. The court just needs to finalize everything, and that's expected in the coming months. Carlo?
So, Anna, how are police supposed to handle this? How are they supposed to know whether someone has anywhere else to go?
So this all hinges on if they have nowhere else to go. The city has 4 designated safe overnight parking lots. That's what they call it, their safe parking program. One of those 4 is for RVs, and what they're going to start doing is post on the city's website if there is a space available in one of those parking lots. If there is no space available, then people are allowed to be out here on the street.
All right, some relief for people who are stuck in no man's land there. Anna, thank you much.
CBS strikes again. CBS, man, their hearts are... How do they even have any blood left? It's bleeding all over the place.
In Chicago, critics accuse the city of prioritizing migrants over citizens. Qatar Truss is a longtime Chicago resident and joins me now. Qatar, why are you going to vote Republican for the first time ever?
It's simple. The Democratic Party has failed us here in Chicago, our local government as well as our state government, and even our president has made our migrants a priority over American citizens. And so we have to stand up and we have to let them know that it is unacceptable. We have to let them know that you're not going to continue to depend on our vote. You know, Chicago is a Democratic stronghold, and we've been that way for years. And we are allowing our elected officials to mistreat us by continuing to support the Democratic Party. It is now time for us to stand up and to vote differently. I am excited about being able to vote Republican for the first time. I'm excited about the fact that I have a choice. I can exercise my right. Not only that, I can also bring others along and talk to people about voting differently, about giving the Democratic Party something to think about, letting them know that we're not going to just continue to go along and support a party that is not supporting us.
What do your friends and relatives say when you say to them, well, I'm going to vote Republican, you should too? What do they say to you?
You know, initially, people were looking at me a little sideways because they didn't understand. But as I began to talk to them about what is happening, as I began to remind them of how our communities have been disinvested in and how we went to City Hall when they talked about taking our park from us, and we tried to talk to the mayor about it. And when we went to City Hall to say that we wanted to end Chicago's sanctuary city status, and our elected officials practically ignored us.
It can be a fair...
Our voices did not matter. No one stood up for us. No one stood with us. Well, and it was at that point that I realized that not only am I going to vote Republican, but we need to be having an honest conversation about where we stand here in Chicago as Black Americans with the Democratic Party.
Would you in some way stop new arrivals, new migrants arriving in Chicago? Would you in some way stop them coming?
Absolutely. Let me tell you something. Thus far, the city of Chicago with the county and the state of Illinois has spent $1 billion to take care of migrants. It cost Governor Abbott $100 million to send them here. There is no reason why we have not stopped the buses and began sending them back or changed our sanctuary city status. The fact of the matter is we are being overrun by migrants. We don't have the capacity nor the dollars to take care of them securely. And so to keep allowing them to come makes no sense. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Look, I'm sorry, we're very short on time, but we want to thank you very much for coming on the show and telling us how it really is. We need to know that.
Thank you for having me.
And you did it for us. Qatar Truss. Thank you, ma'am.
Special time. We got commercials to show.
It can be a fairly big problem. Squatters and some area realtors say the problem is only getting worse.
It's a nuisance that grows with the housing market. So what can you do about this? Dane Placco spoke to a victim of squatting.
Real estate agents say that squatters and scammers are once again becoming a significant problem across the Chicago area, which is exactly what happened to this property here in Longwood Manor.
They flipped over the sign on the Coldwell Banker sign. It says sold, and then they changed the locks.
They installed a Ring doorbell.
Real estate agent Arian McDuffie says she was shocked on Friday when she found a family living in this vacant home she'd been trying to sell for months, yelling at her.
This is our property. Get off of our property.
They were ordering you off the property.
They was ordering us off the property.
They put a screwdriver here and they open it.
The owner of the home, Bill Adrianos, called police and rushed to the scene, but was told by officers the squatting family told them they were the victims of a scam.
The police, they refuse to do anything about it. Yeah. They refuse to do anything because they say these people, they say they have a lease, they rented from the landlord, this is a civil matter, we can't do nothing about it.
Eventually, the officers were able to talk the squatters into leaving peacefully. But realtors say once a squatter is in a home, it can take months to kick them out through the courts. Is this happening a lot lately?
It is. It is something, unfortunately, that happens.
Realtor Jameer Walton says fake landlords and squatters have increasingly been using open houses and real estate listings.
Check out the lockbox.
Another agent found this when he recently entered a house he was selling.
Look what we got. Somebody trying to move in.
Walton says that people signing leases should always make sure the person that claims to own the property actually does.
But you can also go on the like the Cook County property tax site. You can look on there in the Cook County Recorder of Deeds just to be able to make sure the name on the lease matches the city records.
The best advice to catch squatters before they settle in is to put a monitored security device inside the home and call police immediately if someone you don't know steps in through the front door. On the south side, Dane Placco, Fox 32 Chicago.
I'm not the first person to say it, but it's just a matter of time before these migrants, catch wind of these squatter laws that we have here. Because you check this out, they're used to living in, a lot of them supposedly are worse. They're used to living on the streets, probably, actually, even. Like, they say they've been living in squander, but a lot of them had lives and jobs in different countries that they're not fleeing from. But anyway, that's another thing. So living in an abandoned house that they, can squat right in. Whoa. That's pretty sweet. Well, I'm getting something to listen to this lady lie about stuff.
Okay, I have a couple things at the top, and then we'll get going. Conclude Biden and Vice President Social Security. The bipartisan.
Fuck, man.
24. The president made clear. Concluded.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello.
Ooh,
okay,
she's showing a little
have a couple
chest
things
today.
At the top, and then we'll get going. A short time ago, President Biden and Vice President Harris concluded a meeting with congressional leaders on the need to keep the government open and pass the National Security Supplemental. In the meeting, the president made clear that Congress must take swift action to fund the government and prevent a shutdown. A shutdown would cause needless damage to hardworking families, our economy, and our national security. The only path forward is through bipartisan bills that are free of extreme policies. The president also emphasized the urgent need for Congress to stand with Ukraine as it defends itself against Russia's brutal invasion. Ukraine has lost ground on the battlefield in recent weeks and is being forced to ration ammunition and supplies due to congressional inaction. The bipartisan National Security Supplemental passed the Senate with overwhelming bipartisan support, 70 to 29, and would pass in the House if it was brought to a vote. It would arm Ukraine, invest in America's defense industrial base, help Israel defend itself against Hamas, and provide humanitarian aid for people impacted by conflicts around the world, including Palestinian civilians. The president called on the House to support our national security and pass the supplemental and made clear the dire consequences if they failed to act. Now today, in the wake of the Alabama Supreme Court decision threatening access to IVF treatment, Secretary Becerra is in Alabama today to hear from families and healthcare professionals. Today's visit is a critical part of the Biden-Harris administration's ongoing work to hear directly from families impacted by the Republican elected officials' extreme agenda. The Biden-Harris administration will continue to fight back against attacks on reproductive freedoms, whether that's attacks on abortion care, birth control access, and now IVF access. It is absolutely unacceptable to this administration when women are denied the care that they need. President Biden and Vice President Harris will continue to work to protect access to reproductive health care and call on Congress to restore the protections of Roe v. Wade in federal law for all women in every state. And some news for you today, this Sunday, March 3rd. Vice President Kamala Harris will return to Selma, Alabama to commemorate the 59th anniversary of Bloody Sunday by joining the march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. While there, she will deliver remarks on honoring the legacy of the civil rights movement and the Biden-Harris administration's continued work to achieve justice for all and encourage Americans to continue the fight for fundamental freedoms. Alabama will be the 12th state the Vice President has traveled to in 2024 after visiting 24 states in 2023. With that, my colleague Admiral John Kirby from NSC is here to give any updates in the Middle East. Admiral?
Good afternoon. I think, as many of you know, USAID Administrator Samantha Power is in Israel this week for a series of meetings, including ongoing efforts by the United States to increase the delivery of life-saving humanitarian assistance to civilians that live in Gaza. Today, the administrator announced that the United States will provide an additional $53 million in urgently needed humanitarian assistance, which will include assistance to the World Food Program and other international NGOs, providing resources for food, shelter, water, medicine, sanitation, hygiene, all to the people of Gaza and the West Bank. This brings the total amount of funding announced by the United States government since the 7th of October to more than $180 million. Now, there's no question that much more aid is needed to address the critical and urgent needs on the ground. That's why President Biden and the entire team will continue to work every day to increase the flow of humanitarian assistance into Gaza while also prioritizing the safety of civilians and aid workers. That's also why we are working so hard on a temporary ceasefire to not only get the hostages out and the fighting paused, but all to get that critical humanitarian assistance in and to increase the flow. There's just not enough getting in right now. There was significant progress towards those ends last week following U.S. engagements in the region. We're building on that progress this week, and the President and his team remain engaged around the clock with multiple partners in the region. But as the President said just the last 24 hours or so, there's no deal as of yet, and there's a lot more work to do. Speaking of more work to do, the United States took additional action today to counter terrorist financing and to disrupt Houthi attacks on international shipping. In coordination with the United Kingdom, we sanctioned the deputy commander of Iran's IRGC, Mohammad Reza Falazadeh, for his role as a Houthi-affiliated operative and for owning and operating a vessel used to ship Iranian commodities in support of both the Houthis and the IRGC. We also designated 2 additional companies that own and operate a vessel involved in shipping more than $100 million worth in Iranian commodities on behalf of Iran's Ministry of Defense. The Biden administration has now administered over 55 separate Iran sanctions rollouts targeting more than 550 individuals and entities. All told, we've taken targets with Iran's involvement in human rights, abuses, hostage-taking, missile, drone, and non-proliferation programs. We have no plans to lift, waive, or provide any new sanctions relief for Iran, and we will continue to look for ways to take action and to hold them accountable. With that, take the question.
Thanks, Craig. John, 2 subjects. First, with regard to Israel and the possible ceasefire, a senior official from Egypt told AP that there is a 6-week ceasefire that could go into effect, with Hamas agreeing to free up to 40 hostages, and Israel would release at least 300 Palestinian prisoners. Would those terms provide sufficient incentives to both sides to find a way to work together?
We're still negotiating, and I am not going to negotiate from the podium. I'm not going to comment about those particulars. We're still working out the modalities of this arrangement, and we're hopeful that we can get there.
And then, secondly, Secretary Yellen said today that she was looking toward unlocking the value of some $300 billion in frozen Russian assets to aid Ukraine. Does she want to spend that money, or is the U.S. looking to use it as collateral for like a debt issuance?
What we're talking about here is the potential for using frozen assets. Back in 2022, we froze some $300 billion worth of Russian assets at the beginning of the war. What we're talking about is the potential of using some of those frozen assets to assist Ukraine in their ability to defend themselves, but also to potentially assist with reconstruction in Ukraine. Now, that also, we still believe Russia needs to be responsible for the damage they've caused in Ukraine, so that's not going to let them off the hook for that, but it could be used for that purpose as well.
But are you going to spend it, or are you going to use it in an alternative way?
Again, the idea would be exploring the option of being able to use those frozen assets to help Ukraine as they defend themselves and as they try to recover from 2 years of war. But I want to make a couple of things clear. Number one, we still need more legislative authorities from Congress for the president to be able to act on that, to quote-unquote spend it the way you're talking about.
But it is.
Number two, and this is not an unimportant thing, and the Secretary said this as well, we've got to have our coalition partners who also were involved in the freezing of these assets to come along with us. And so the conversations we're having now are with our allies and partners about making sure that they're on board with the usage of these frozen assets.
Thank you, Karine. John, thank you. Next Monday is a very specific date that the president offered up for when the ceasefire could begin, especially, as you mentioned, if negotiations are still ongoing. So can you provide any insight about why he offered up the date of next Monday and what has to happen between now and then?
He told you himself that he was getting advised by his national security team, particularly our national security advisor, about the progress that we were making and the direction in which the talks were going. We're hopeful and cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to get this pause in place very, very soon.
And then secondly, has the president been briefed or seen Israel's plan to evacuate Rafah?
We have not been presented with such a plan.
Admiral, the president referred to his hopes for a ceasefire. You have used the word pause. Previously, he has talked about temporary ceasefire. Is he shifting his sense of what kind of a cessation in violence would be, how long it would be? Anything on that is new in his view?
I wouldn't say that there's anything new, Kelly. I mean, a humanitarian pause, temporary ceasefire, they're roughly the same things. We're not talking about anything different. What we're hoping to do.
There's a difference, though, when the president says ceasefire, it carries a different sort of weight.
What we're hoping to do is to get an extended pause in the fighting. I've just called it a temporary ceasefire myself. That would allow for several weeks, hopefully up to 6, where there would be no fighting, so that we can get all the hostages out, increase the flow of humanitarian assistance, but just as critically, get the fighting stopped so that there's no more civilian casualties and there's no more damage to civilian infrastructure. Now, the last pause was a week. What we're hoping for is much more aggressive than that. And as we've said before, we also hope that if we can get that in place and both sides can abide by it for the course of several weeks, maybe up to 6, that maybe that could lead to something more in terms of a better approach to end the conflict writ large.
Thanks, Admiral. Just to follow on Weeja's previous question, though, we've learned, according to an Israeli source, that
Hamas isn't going to be able to help themselves. They're going to blow some shit up. Watch them.
Who was quite surprised by the president's comments about his expectations that there would be a ceasefire by Monday. So that doesn't bode a lot of optimism that one of the key parties was surprised by that timeline the president had set. So why did he say Monday?
I can't speak for the surprise that foreign leaders have or don't have with regard to things that we're saying. The president talked to y'all after staying completely up to speed, and he has been kept up to speed on how these negotiations are going, and he shared with you some context, and he certainly shared with you his optimism that we can get there in hopefully short order. But he also said, you know, it's not all done yet. And you don't have a deal until you have a deal. We don't have one right now. So the team is still working at this very, very hard, as I said in my opening statement, around the clock. But we believe that we are getting closer. And while we don't want to sound too sanguine or Pollyannish about it, we do think that there's been some serious negotiations.
And after Speaker Johnson's meeting with the president, it doesn't really sound like he's changed his mind on Ukraine. He again reiterated that the border needs to be addressed before Ukraine. So given this current trajectory, what does that mean for Ukraine and its battlefield needs?
I'd also point to what he said about, taking up the issue of Ukraine funding in a timely fashion. He said that right out there outside the West Wing. And we know that he does support funding for Ukraine. He said so himself. We know that the significant House leadership, and certainly on both sides of the aisle in the House, support funding for Ukraine. Now the question is, when you say a timely fashion, what do you mean by that? I can tell you, to the Ukrainian soldier on the battlefront, timeliness is now. It's right now. As you and I just came back from the weekend, the Russians started taking some other towns and villages. Now they didn't, nothing to the significance of Avdiivka in terms of the logistics hub that they want to create there. But they're on the move. This is not some frozen conflict. And so we urge the Speaker, when he says a timely fashion, that he actually lives up to that, because again, to the Ukrainian soldier, the time is right now.
What's the significance of trying to get a hostage deal in place before Ramadan starts on March 10th?
What we're focused on,
Steve, I have not seen such a strategy put forward.
We're hopeful that this can happen in coming days, and if that does, if we are able to get the pause in place and the hostages out in a relatively short order, then clearly an extended pause, as I was talking to Kelly about, would certainly take you into Ramadan. But right now, it's not about trying to beat the clock to Ramadan. It's about trying to get these two sides to come to closure on a deal that, again, would get all those hostages out and get the fighting stopped.
Separately, we took note of the remarks by the French president today of the possibility of sending French troops to Ukraine. How would the United States regard any NATO ally sending troops to Ukraine?
Well, that's a sovereign decision that
I wish they would hurry and do it.
Would have to make for themselves. You heard Secretary General Stoltenberg say himself he had no plans or intentions of certainly under NATO auspices, of putting troops on the ground. And President Biden has been crystal clear since the beginning of this conflict. There will be no U.S. troops on the ground in a combat role there in Ukraine.
Europe should definitely have troops in Ukraine.
Senator Schumer just said that Ukraine couldn't afford to wait a month or two more for additional funding because it would, in all likelihood, lose the war. Is that the administration's assessment as well?
The situation's dire, MJ. As I said, the Russians not only took Avdiivka, they've taken a couple of other towns and villages in just the last 72 hours. These guys these Ukrainian soldiers on the front, I mean, they're making some real tough decisions about what they're going to shoot at and what they're going to shoot at it with, and they're running out of bullets. It's not, as Jake said the other day, it's not running out of courage; they're running out of bullets. So the situation's very dire. I'm not in a position to put a timestamp on it and say, by such and such a date they'll lose the war, but they are certainly beginning to lose territory that they had clawed back from the Russians, and now they have to give it back to the Russians.
Both sides should be fighting with swords.
They can't fight them off.
I'm not asking you to give a prediction, but do you generally agree that in a month's time, in 2 months' time, it is very possible that Ukraine could lose the war without additional funding?
What I would tell you that, as I said to Steve, the time is now, right now. The situation is dire now. I can't predict what it'll look like in a month or two, because I can't predict what the Russians are going to do. But certainly, if, just for argument's sake, if they continue to get no support from the United States, in a month or two, it is very likely that the Russians will achieve more territorial gains and have more success against Ukrainian front lines in terms of just territory gain, mostly in the east, but potentially even in the south.
Just a quick follow-up on Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu said over the weekend that regardless of what happens with the ongoing hostage talks, that they plan to go into Rafah. You just told Weija that it's not like the U.S. has seen some evacuation plan from the Israelis. So
no, it's not like we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it.
You have not. That is what I meant. Given that, do you believe that there is a plan by the Israelis to secure the safety of the civilians in Rafah before they enter Rafah, which again the Prime Minister says they are planning to do no matter what.
Well, the Prime Minister has also said that he has ordered the Israeli Defense Forces to, in producing a plan for operations in Rafah, to include in that a plan for securing the safety of the more than 1 million refugees that are there. Again, we've not been presented one. I can't speak for the Israelis and to what degree their planning has progressed and what that looks like, but the Prime Minister himself has said, he publicly said, that he's tasked his generals to come up with one.
But it's fair to say the U.S. wouldn't support Israeli forces going into Rafah until you all have seen a plan that makes you feel confident that there is a plan to secure the safety of the civilians.
That's correct.
Good morning. Thank you, Karine. Hi, Admiral. The UN Special Rapporteur said today that Israel is purposely starving Palestinians in Gaza by destroying greenhouses, small-scale fishing boats, and their farms. So why the U.S. has not done a review of how this war is conducted, while you're very quick to do it in Ukraine against the Russians? I have a question for Karine.
Okay. I'm not aware of the report coming out of the UN on the greenhouses.
They're never
so I'm gonna
aware
take that
of it.
and go back and look at that. As I've said, there is a process of supporting foreign militaries. We are following that process, and the State Department has acknowledged that that when they are alerted to incidents of concern, they do look into them. It's not a formal review, it's not some investigation, but it's part of the normal process of security assistance to a foreign military. Now, whether they're looking at this one, I don't know. You have a question for Karine?
Question about the Arab American community leaders today. Yeah. They said that their vote of non-committal is an appeal to the White House, to the president, to stop the killing of their relatives in Gaza. Yeah. So how will the White House change their strategy to address this issue that Arab Americans are concerned about?
So
and calling for?
I'm going to be really mindful because we're talking about an election, so I'm not going to comment on an upcoming election. But there's a couple things I do want to say, which I think is incredibly important. First of all, you know that senior officials have gone to Michigan as of late, earlier this month, to meet with Muslim and Arab Americans, and we understand, right, during a very deeply painful and personal moment, right? We understand what they're going through. We understand what this means to this community, and the president understands that too. So we care very much about about that and what the community again is going through, and we wanted to convey that very strongly, obviously, which is why you had senior officials go to Detroit, go to Michigan to have those conversations. And look, we know it's been a difficult time. The president cares about that. I want to miss out on that Muslim boat. He cares about what that community is feeling very deeply. And we believe it's important that they feel that they are able to express themselves and voice their feelings and their concerns. And so, look, you heard the Admiral talk about the hostage deal, the temporary ceasefire. That is why it is so critical and important to get that done. That is why you've seen this president and his administration work 24/7 to get that done, so we can get a temporary ceasefire, so we can get that humanitarian aid into Gaza, so that we can get those hostages. And we have American hostages that are part of that number as well. We want to get those hostages home to their families, to their loved ones, and the president's not going to stop. You heard him yesterday in New York. He's not going to stop until we get that done. So I'll leave it there. Let me let the Admiral finish. Get Danny.
Thanks, Green. Thanks, Admiral. Just going back to President Macron's comments about not ruling out Western troops on the ground in Ukraine. Has President Macron discussed...
Words meanings are being cheapened as time goes on. Like the word literally. You know, the word amazing. And now 24/7 doesn't actually mean 24/7. It just means you're thinking about it a lot.
That suggestion with President Biden at all?
Officially, from the White House podium, 24/7.
The readout of the conversation. I don't have anything more to add on that.
Very briefly, you said as well that the
Do you think
President Biden said
Biden,
before
the administration,
that,
cares about
he would
fucking
not send US troops
Palestine
to Ukraine, a combat role.
24/7?
The French
Hardly.
foreign minister suggested that Western troops could be sent for demining or arms production or cyber. Is there a possibility that is that something that would be considered by the US?
No, the only U.S. Military personnel that are in Ukraine are associated with the embassy as part of the Defense Attaché office, and they're doing important work in terms of helping us with the accountability of weapons and systems that are provided to Ukraine. The president's been clear, there's not going to be U.S. troops on the ground in Ukraine.
Thank you so much, Karine. Hi, John. One about Gaza and another one about Ukraine. On Gaza, what makes the president confident that ceasefire can be reached in a week? Any breakthroughs that made him confident about that? And any comment about the number of civilians there in Gaza reaching 30,000? How many more will have to die until the U.S. agree with a permanent ceasefire?
We don't want to see one more die.
All of the hostages has to be returned.
This pause we're working on is so important. The president was reflecting updates that he'd been getting from the national security team about the progress of those talks. We're hopeful. And as I said earlier, cautiously optimistic that we can get there, and hopefully in short order. But
they're not going to quit without all the hostages being released.
A lot of diplomatic work, a lot of negotiations to try to get us to this point. And
Hamas
we're not there yet.
still exists.
That's important to say. The president made that clear too. It's not you don't have a deal till you have a deal. We don't have a deal right now. But as for how many more should die, again, I've said many times before, the right number of civilian casualties is 0. We don't want to see one more person, an innocent person, killed in this conflict, which is, again, why this 6-week or so pause could be so effective in terms of reducing the number of civilian casualties and giving us some breathing space to get more humanitarian assistance in and potentially talk about an end to the conflict.
Another one on Ukraine, very quickly, because Senator Schumer described
You know what?
the meeting.
You're talking about Ukraine too much. You're bugging me.
I'm encouraged that the Foreign Relations Committee will be holding per day 8
shortly.
Terror, and I have been focused. I doubt he is pining to hear all of my opening remarks, so I will put them into the record, turn the days over to him, and then we'll hear from our witnesses. We are convening this subcommittee today to discuss an incredibly important topic, developments in Yemen and on the Red Sea. For the better part of the last decade, Gulf nations, often assisted by the United States, have been at war in Yemen against Houthi forces that control sizable parts of the country. I have argued that it was a catastrophic mistake for the United States and our Arab partners to be part of this conflict. My belief was that the war would simply strengthen the Houthis and strengthen Iran's influence in Yemen. During the last several months, we have seen tragic evidence of this reality. Armed with sophisticated technology from Iran and coordinated with the Iranian military, the Houthis have launched a dizzying barrage of attacks, missiles, underwater drones, aerial drones against ships transiting through the Red Sea. The Red Sea is one of the most important geostrategic locations in the world. 15% of international maritime commerce passes through its waters, and now 90% of Red Sea traffic has been forced to choose longer and costlier alternatives.
How you doing?
The cost increases to global shipping of this diversion will be significant. Consumers will bear the brunt of that. But the impact isn't just economic. Due to the Houthis' actions in the Red Sea, bulk container ships with food supplies for starving people in Yemen haven't been able to make their deliveries. In Sudan, where 95% of the population can't afford more than 1 meal per day, aid deliveries of food and medicine are crucially delayed and come at significantly higher costs. I oppose the U.S. involvement in the Yemen war. I regret that Houthis are now strong enough to attack our interests in the region. But this is where we are. And now that we are in the crosshairs, we must respond. That's why I have supported the President's leadership to launch Operation Prosperity Guardian to restore maritime security in the Red Sea. I've also supported the President's decision, together with our partners in the UK, to target Houthi infrastructure in Yemen to prevent imminent attacks. That kinetic response has been paired with the target.
They're right. They're going to fix it. I don't think so. I seem to have run out of time on that one. You know what I'm just going to do? Take it into overdrive. Boop!
It's an old man.
Oh, I'm gonna go next level. Oh, whoa. Yup. That is the next level. I found it. I found it. There might be one more go around in it. Let's see. I'm gonna up the temp. Oh shit.
What is an encore?
I know what I'm doing, man.
The audience will continue to clap and clap and clap until the performer comes back and agrees to play one more piece. Or in some cases, the audience will bring the performer back over and over and over again.
I need an encore. One more? Can we hear it louder? He might let us do it if we say it louder. They say yes. They say yes.
Okay.
Gets one.
Brum, 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 brum.
This doesn't seem safe.
Do you ever just...
Apparently everybody gets one. Bingo.
It was definitely Peter from Family Guy. Apparently everybody gets a win. I know what I'm listening to because I can hear shit that others can't. I'm just playing. I was thinking I'm actually that crazy. I do not hear the voices.
Oh, this is great. I feel so alive.
Hey, American Dad's in there.
Ladies, take your high heels off and get moving.
What is that, head knocking music?
Where's that from? That's like Joe Pesci, but I don't think it was. I've seen this dude. He opened for somebody. A lot of these people I listen to, I only know about them because I saw them live as an opener. A lot of music I've played, but it's probably
Don't forget it. Turn on the lasers.
a niche music.
That's it. Show's over. Good night, Springton. There will be no encores.
They were only up for 20 minutes.
Gnarly show, man. Want to trash the stage?
Let me claim this. Oh, we got 11 minutes. 11 seconds. Festival is. Hey, it's August. That'll probably work. I don't know the song. They're all new.
mind meld integration at 100%. Thank you for joining us in the Kingfisher.
People of the earth will unite with this. Open your third eye, can y'all see this? Look at all the signs, y'all can read this.
Fast money, fast cars, I live for this shit. My young nigga and them, man, they gon' kill for this shit. Shaking my head off, you just too real for this shit. My first investment was a vacuum, then I got rich. Fast money, fast cars, I live for this shit. My young nigga and them, man, they gon' kill for this shit. Shaking my head off, you just too real for this shit. My first investment was a vacuum, then I got rich.
Yeah, nigga. Fuck everybody, fuck everything, nigga. Get money, nigga. Run that shit up, nigga.
Fast money, fast cars, I live for this shit, bitch. Fast money, fast cars, I live for this shit, bitch. Fast money, fast cars, I live for this shit, bitch. My young nigga and them, man, they gon' kill for this shit, bitch. Fast money, fast cars, I live for this shit, bitch. My young nigga and them, man, they gon' kill for this shit, bitch. Shaking my head off, you just too real for this shit, bitch. My first investment was a vacuum, then I got rich. Fast money, fast cars, I live for this shit, bitch. My young nigga and them, man, they gon' kill for this shit, bitch. Shaking my head off, you just too real for this shit, bitch. My first investment was a vacuum, then I got rich. Fast money,
Oh my god. Why? Dude, Young Jump is dead. What the fuck? He's still making music? God, that was too much. Dude, I keep finding rabbit teeth in Simon's food. I need to look something up. Is a tooth digestible? The acid in their stomach is more than capable of dissolving it. Really? So that not separate the cat teeth out of the cat food? I don't know. Does he need it for the calcium? Speaking of which, I forgot to take my calcium. I found one in this morning's and one in this afternoon's feeding. 2 teeth in one day already. What? You got food, bro? What do you eat? Oh, I need water. You're right. That's why you're telling me. I mean, is it good for him though? Eat the form of calcium. It is stored in the teeth. I don't want to take it out if it's part of his calcium. Also don't want him to bite on it though, you know? I could think that could hurt his teeth, right? Do they not have to chew maybe? I don't know, man. Seems like it's dangerous for his teeth. I wouldn't want to crunch down on a tooth. And no, I'm taking them out when I see them. Because in the wild, they wouldn't randomly be eating fucking rabbit teeth. That's a pretty big head. They'd probably be like, take meat off of it, right? They'd be swallowing a whole rabbit head. Yeah. Gotta have to take him out. He's eating right now, man. He's munching down. Awesome. That's pretty awesome. He ate all of his breakfast this morning, too. My young dog had to ruin everything, man. Hey, where you going? Where you going? Oh no, don't do that. Leave it alone. What's that? Some crash in Kingsville. Where's that? Oh. Where's Kingsville? Baltimore. little more news brought to you because you care so much about Baltimore. I do care about Baltimore. Everybody cares about it, don't they? What is this?
So the ultimate weapon perhaps coming closer to reality in the country of Iran, the UN's nuclear watchdog finding that Tehran is further boosting its overall stockpile of uranium and keeping its nuclear program away from the eyes of the agency's most seasoned inspectors. Former Secretary of State, Fox News contributor Mike Pompeo, sir, good morning to you. Here are the three headlines. Inspectors are not given access. The stockpile of uranium is higher, as I just mentioned there. And the rich uranium is at what's considered 60% purity. Based on the article that I read, to get to 90%, you do that very simply once you're at 60%. So they're close.
Yes, Bill, good morning. No, they're close, and you're right. It doesn't take long. You spin some centrifuges. They have the equipment to do that. And all of this has been enabled by the decision that was made early on by the Biden administration to allow them to continue to build these programs out by getting out of the JCPOA and ceasing to enforce the sanctions regime, which denied them the very money that they need to continue to spin their centrifuges and build their nuclear capabilities. It's very concerning. Imagine sitting in the same context with what happened on October 7th with a nuclear-armed Iran. The dynamics would be very different, even more difficult than they are today. And this administration has done literally nothing to stop Iran from continuing to build its program.
That's a really
and
interesting.
The poor IEA is now shut out.
Yeah, that's an interesting scenario. Just how does, say Tehran comes out with the alert a month from now or 6 months from now, how does the region change, in your view, immediately?
I think it changes two very important ways. First is, I think the Israelis would understand that they've got to take action that is even more serious, more concerted, more focused than they have taken to date. I don't think Israel can allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon or a nuclear weapons program. Second, the Gulf Arab states, Bill, will almost certainly feel compelled to head down the same path. And so we will then have multiple nuclear-armed nations in the Middle East. This proliferation is a terrible risk. It's one of the reasons we worked so hard to build the Abraham Accords, was to prevent precisely this kind of activity from taking place.
Well, let's move to another topic. I don't know if we get a deal with Hamas or not, but here was Joe Biden in New York yesterday when he was asked about it at the ice cream shop right down the street.
Can you give us a sense of when you think that ceasefire will start, sir?
Well, I hope by the beginning of the weekend. I mean, the end of the weekend. At least my national security advisor tells me that we're close. We're close. It's not done yet. And my hope is by next Monday.
I don't know what your read is on that. This whole thing about referring to Jake Sullivan, fine, but I mean, he's the commander-in-chief. He owns the decision, does he not, as opposed to Jake Sullivan?
He does. He does. That's so odd. Vibes and ice cream as the method by which you communicate your hostage policy. Look, it has been an enormous mistake of the administration to put so much pressure on Israel to stand down. Call it a ceasefire, call it a pause. The Israeli people can't be sold out by the American administration. They've got to complete this task. They cannot allow Hamas to continue to have weapons and capabilities on their border in the south and west of their country. And they're going to finish this task. I don't know what President Biden is thinking. I don't know why he would sell out Israel in this way. Israel needs to complete this task. It's not only in Israel's best interest, it's in the Gulf Arab states' best interest, it's in America's best interest as well. Bill, these Hamas guys, they are literally an extended arm of the very Iranians we were speaking about earlier. That's the task at hand, and the president should not be halting them or hindering them. He should be encouraging them to finish this task quickly.
Netanyahu says, I think we're there. Here's what Hamas said to Biden's comments. Hamas official telling Reuters the U.S. president...
This is why I clicked on this story, by the way. The title of it is Hamas responds to Biden's hostage deal claim. I waited 3 minutes and 48 seconds to be able to hear less than 40 seconds of what I wanted to hear about. That's some fucking shit, dude.
Comments on the prospects of an imminent halt in Gaza are premature, do not match the situation on the ground. Officials saying there are still big gaps that need to be bridged before a truce. I tell you what, you get hostages out of there alive, it's going to be an amazing, an extraordinary moment for the world. And let's hope and pray that it does happen. Mike Pompeo, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Bill.
We'll hold on to hope.
Yes,
thank you, sir, for coming on today.
I'm Steve Ducey. I'm best interest. It's in America halting them or hindering.
Telling Reuters the U.S. president's comments on the prospects of an imminent halt in Gaza are premature, do not match the situation on the ground. Officials saying there are still big gaps that need to be bridged before a truce. I tell you what, you get hostages out of there alive. It's going to be an amazing, an extraordinary moment for the world. And let's hope and pray that it does happen. Mike Pompeo, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Bill.
We'll hold on to hope.
Yes,
thank you, sir, for coming on today. I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade. And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe.
Let me already played.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin will testify before the House Armed Services Committee about his secret hospital stay this Thursday. It comes as the Pentagon released its report saying, quote, although, as hindsight has shown, the process for making decisions to transfer the Secretary's authority could and should be improved, as further explained in the recommendations approved by the Secretary. Nothing examined during this review demonstrated any indication of ill intent or an attempt to obfuscate. Whoa, that's a lot of big words.
A lot of big words. Texas Congressman Ronnie Jackson is a physician who serves on the House Armed Services Committee, and the congressman joins us now. Congressman, great to have you. In light of this report and your reaction to it, what questions will you be asking Lloyd Austin on Thursday?
Well, I want to know what happened, and I want to know why I won't take personal accountability for this. This is the big problem that we have right now in the Department of Defense, and honestly, it's a problem that we have through our government right now. Is people in the upper levels, in the upper echelons of authority, will not take responsibility for what happened, and I just think it's time for him to resign at this particular point. The American people have lost trust and confidence in our Secretary of Defense. It started, with the disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan and the fact that we got 13 Americans killed there. We turned over countless millions of dollars worth of equipment that are now being used. I talked to an ally of ours not too long ago that are still fighting with the Taliban and ISIS, and they are using our night vision and our small weapons against them. So this has been horrible. He's not been a good leader. I should point out that he has an important role that he put our safety and security at risk. Somebody asked me the other day when the Hur report came out, and there were all these questions about Biden's cognitive ability. They were really concerned. They said, can this man be in control of our nuclear capability and our nuclear response? And they said, sure. They said, tell me that there are checks and balances here, that it's not just up to him. And there are checks and balances to some extent, but the response time would be really quick, with a matter of minutes. And part of the other person that would be involved in this would be the Secretary of Defense. And we had a situation when he was in the hospital where we have a commander-in-chief who may or may not be, I would say not, cognitively capable of doing what needs to be done and making these decisions. And then we have a Secretary of Defense who's completely MIA, missing in action. No one knows where he's at or what's going on. That is a recipe for disaster. That is a danger to this country, and it's a big national security issue. He needs to answer these questions. He needs to explain to us what happened. He needs to explain to us why he has not stepped up to the plate, taken personal responsibility for this, and resigned, because that's what he would expect from a subordinate of his that had gone through this same particular process. Right, well, they want their subordinates to be accountable, but they're not accountable.
Congressman, Thursday is going to be a big day, because while Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is going to be addressing Congress, President Biden and former President Trump are also going to be visiting your home state of Texas, the southern border. Notable about Biden's trip is that he's going to Brownsville, Texas, which has been getting around 300 border crossings a day. If he wants to actually see this crisis, he shouldn't be going there.
Right. I mean, last time they went to El Paso, they go to El Paso, and they need to go to the Del Rio area. They need to go to,
he needs to go to Yacumba now.
Folks that are crossing the border.
Right.
That's where President Trump will be. You're going to go and see what the actual problem looks like. But this is just for show. They're under incredible pressure right now politically because of what's going on, because the sanctuary cities are demanding that something be done now for a change, only because the Texas governor pushed people to these sanctuary cities, and we put our National Guard and our DPS officers and stopped the flow, and now the flow is transferred to other places, and it's a problem for some of these Democrats. That's the only reason he's going, is this is an election year, and he's trying to appease the people in the party that are pushing back on this right now. Otherwise, he wouldn't go. Right. This is by design. This is his border crisis, and this is the way it's supposed to be working for them for the last 3 years.
There's also not a border crisis in Seth Meyers' studio at 30 Rock, but he visited there, spent a lot of time. Congressman Ronnie Jackson, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm
That's right. Well, the sheriff's office says that this is a law that is highly effective, but is very much being underutilized. They want to spread awareness with a new campaign for anyone out there who is fearful of someone in possession of a gun hurting someone or even hurting themselves. Now, today, the sheriff displayed some of the guns that they've recovered when these restraining orders have been filed. Deputies have filed about a dozen of these orders that have led to the recovery of nearly 100 firearms. The sheriff says family members, roommates, and police officers can file one of these orders. There will be about 57 campaign signs spreading awareness of the law across Cook County. The sheriff says the process to file one of these restraining orders is simple, but it does start online by filling out a form before going to court. He gave an example of how useful this tool can be when dealing with potential gun violence.
Just last year, we had an incident where we went to a house where there was a very bad domestic violence case that had occurred, and someone had been hurt very badly. The individual, when he was taken into custody, the victim told us there were guns in the house. We could not get consent to go in the house, though. We then went into court, and when we went into court, we got one of these orders, and when we went in the house, we got 29 weapons out of that house. So this is something that has real impact on real people, and it's just such a valuable tool.
Damn. Had a lot of guns.
Now, the sheriff does say that there is a 14-day window where the person whose guns are being taken away can come to court. They can ask for a hearing and dispute the order. Live in Maywood, Angelica Sanchez, WGN News.
Weak. I give it a 3.8, maybe a 2.8. Migrant children are missing from U.S. homes.
Good Friday evening and welcome. We begin tonight with that joint investigation by Scripps News and the Center for Public Integrity. It involves thousands of migrant children who might have disappeared from the system altogether. It is a troubling finding when you consider record numbers of migrants continue to pour across the U.S.-Mexico border. Many are children and many of them are alone. The Biden administration puts them in homes with sponsors, but then what happens next? Our investigation found thousands of those children are now disappearing from those sponsor homes. Our Scripps News investigative correspondent Patrick Terpstra joins us tonight. And Patrick, there are also concerns the federal government isn't doing enough to track them down.
That's right, Dylan. To really zero in on this, we picked Culpeper, Virginia. It's a town with a very large Guatemalan population and a lot of sponsors who have taken in migrant children, only to see so many of them disappear.
These are the faces of migrant runaways. Children who came across the southern border alone, were placed by the U.S. government with an adult sponsor, and then vanished. Kids like 15-year-old Yenny, who was last spotted with a black backpack getting into a white pickup truck. No one will say where she went. Selena was just 16 when she ran away from her sponsor's home weeks ago. Cesar, also 16, left his uncle's home one day and never returned. Each of these children disappeared from the small town of Culpeper, Virginia, about a 2-hour drive from Washington, D.C.
This is all my missing kids are here.
These files are pretty thick, it seems. It's Culpeper Police Detective Norma McGuckin's job to try to find them. And she says her cases all seem to unfold the same way.
The sponsor will take him in, or her, and then within 30 days tops, a couple days sometimes, and then the child just picks up and leaves.
You called this a crisis.
We have 21 missing still.
That's a crisis.
On a small town, very small town.
Every chance she gets, McGuckin drives through these neighborhood streets looking for any sign of the missing kids.
Well, they're going to get children rights now.
You can point to a house where
Children,
an unaccompanied minor has run away.
Yes, on this
program
side
to
right here.
take care of them.
Since she became a detective here in 2018, she's managed to find 15 of them. But more keep running away every year.
Could the sponsors be doing more to keep the kids safe in their homes?
I don't know that there's much that they can do. Basically, they are told by the parent back home that's not what they went there for. You know, they didn't go there to go to school, they went there to work.
More than 500,000 unaccompanied minors have come into this country since 2018. And over 6,000 of them have reportedly run away from their sponsor homes.
They're somebody's children. I always worry that they may be in trouble somewhere, being taken advantage of. That's my worry.
She told us she's especially worried about Horlandina Lopez Perez.
She came into the country pregnant.
She was 16 when she vanished.
This case is unique in that you have a baby missing as well as a minor.
Correct.
There's paperwork for her when she was still pregnant.
We obtained this body camera video of the moment police arrived at the home of her sponsor. The woman tells police she came back from work one day and realized Horlandina was gone, along with her 4-month-old baby boy. We wanted to know if the sponsor had heard anything from Horlandina in the months since, so we tracked her down at her home. She agreed to talk to us on her porch. Where is Horlandina today?
La verdad no sé.
Are you worried about her?
Oh, really? Become a citizen automatically?
No sabía dónde
What?
están. Ojalá que sí, ella sí está bien.
So normally,
it's the kind of dead end Detective McGuckin is used to. She says finding any of these children is a process riddled with hurdles. But we were surprised when she said the biggest obstacle is the U.S. government and its Office of Refugee Resettlement, which is responsible for looking after these kids until they're placed with a sponsor.
When you call that office, what happens?
sometimes it depends on who I get on the phone, but most times I don't get much.
What do they say about why they won't give you this information to help you track down these missing kids?
They're just not allowed.
The agency keeps case files for every unaccompanied child that enters this country, including photos, birth certificates, and addresses for other family members. It's invaluable information McGuckin says she could be using to find these kids. Dozens of police reports we obtained document her interactions with this agency. In one case, a government social worker tells her it was against their policies to share a photo of a missing 14-year-old, even though the detective stressed without one, it was like looking for a ghost. No one from the Office of Refugee Resettlement was permitted to speak to Scripps News, so we sat down with Robert Carey. He led the office during the Obama administration.
Is this office standing in the way of finding missing children?
No, absolutely not.
Carey says the office would share information about migrant children with police like McGuckin, but only if it was requested in writing.
But if an officer calls and says, I've got a missing child, I think the child could be in danger, can I get a photo? Can I get family contact information? Why not just give that officer that information?
What's to prevent you or me from calling and saying, I need a photograph of a child. I need their background information.
But these are missing kids. These are missing children.
Right. And their vulnerability and their safety is paramount. You have to determine it's not a trafficker. It's not someone looking to exploit a child. And that requires some degree of verification.
Even though verification takes time.
Yes, it does, but you do not want to put a child in more danger than they would otherwise be.
A few months after Scripps News and the Center for Public Integrity began asking questions, we noticed the Office of Refugee Resettlement published a policy detailing how police can lawfully obtain personal information about migrant children.
Was this office taking this issue seriously if it was really only until August 2023 that they actually published how local law enforcement could get vital information about runaway children?
There were communications with local law enforcement in many instances. It wasn't publicly posted on a website. That doesn't mean it didn't exist.
We found out that the office's national call center received nearly 7,000 calls reporting a child missing. What do you think when you hear that number?
It's concerning. It's absolutely concerning. And I think it requires, further investigation.
Do you worry about these kids?
Constantly, yes. I think these children are particularly vulnerable. They're not arriving with parents or guardians. It's all about protecting the safety of children.
For Detective McGuckin, those efforts to protect the safety of Culpeper's missing children have, for too long, been getting in the way of her work to try to find them.
This is frustrating for you.
It is.
Why?
Because it's making my job harder. I'm doing everything I can possibly, but I can only go so far with the information I'm given.
She told us she'll never give up on these kids, but knows the chances of finding them decrease with every passing day.
And Del, it can sometimes be hard to really inject a sense of urgency about finding these kids because we're talking about, for the most part, teenagers, and it's not like they've been abducted. Most of the time, in fact, these sponsors know, while they can't say where the kids have gone, they suspect that the kids have run away on their own in order to find money. Del.
I know Culpeper well, though. That is a lot of missing kids. Patrick, this information seems to be very frustrating for Detective McGuckin, who is on the ground trying to find these children. Does she have other ways to get information about them?
Well, she does, and we should say that since people have started to really ask questions about this, she's having an easier time getting things from the federal government. If it's not the Health and Human Services Department, sometimes she will go to Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. If that doesn't work, though, where do teenagers spend a lot of their time? Online, social media. So she will look around there to see what she can find. What have they been posted? Where have they been? That sort of thing. But there is nothing like getting that information, a photo, contact information for other family. That is something that the federal government has and that she could really use that she oftentimes just can't get.
And Patrick, what do we know about the children who do run away?
Well, a lot of them are looking to work. It is a difficult thing because the sponsors, when they take a child, they pledge to keep the kid in school and to go to immigration proceedings. But the kid has come here a lot of times in order to pay off a debt, perhaps to a smuggler that's helped them cross the border, or they want to send money back to families at home. And the only way they sometimes see that they can do that is to actually run away, because if they stay with the sponsor, then they will have to go to school, and it can be illegal for them to work an actual legal job until they're in the country as a documented immigrant. Del, very tough.
Our investigative correspondent Patrick Terpstra tonight. Patrick, as always, we thank you very much.
And the ongoing debate about what to do with migrants coming into this country is taking center stage at the county's Board of Supervisors meeting. The board is discussing a possible long-term federally funded migrant transfer site and shelter center in San Diego. They're also debating whether or not to ask President Biden to close the border. ABC 10 News reporter Danny Miskell has been following this all morning long. Danny, it's been less than a week since the migrant center closed because it ran out of money. We are already seeing CBP drop migrants off at transit centers with basically nowhere to go.
Good morning, Jared. That's right. And I'm here at the Iris Transit Center, and I've already seen at least one street release this morning. And I can tell you from firsthand experience that this is this is a very difficult situation for them. It is not easy for these migrants to navigate. And, you know, some of them are needing to use the bathroom, but they can't because there's locks here on the bathroom. Some of them are starving. They have no food. So I've seen migrants digging out of this trash can. I even just offered one of them one of my protein bars because I couldn't stand to see him eat out of this trash can. So you can just see how hard this situation is, especially without having a migrant welcome center giving them all of the information and resources that they need. But you know what? There are community organizations that are out here doing what they can to help.
I just can't see people in the streets. I think it's disheartening to see how border.
Were those Jordans?
I just can't see people.
Look like Jordans.
In the streets. I think it's disheartening to see how Border Patrol is just dropping them off.
Paulina Reyes Porades is an immigration defense lawyer. She's already volunteered more than 12 hours this week on top of her caseload to give guidance and information to migrants here at the Iris Transit Center.
When we heard that the migrant center was closing, I asked there and also again with the county to ask what is the plan afterwards, you know, on the 23rd, and I did not get a response.
After dropping the migrants off near San Isidro, this bus left for the Old Town Transit Station. Not all have to take the bus. The ones who can afford it look for taxi cab services.
Most of them, they have money. Some of them, you know, the friend is helping them to pay, you know, the fee of the taxi.
Jamal Ali says he only takes a couple migrants a day from here to the airport. And these boys from Mauritania have no money or family in the U.S. They tell me they're trying to get to a mention shelter in New York, but they can't anymore. Through the Google Translate app, they told me gangs took advantage of them and took all their money. Another person I spoke with says he's from Honduras and he just wants to reconnect with his wife. He says he also has no money and is looking for a job to buy food and clothes. And Jared, I also spoke to migrants from China who told me they cannot be on camera because they are fearful of their lives. So that just kind of gives you a sense of what they're fleeing. But this also gives you a sense of what they're currently facing as they're trying to figure out their next step to what they're hoping is a better life here in the U.S. Live near San Isidro, I'm Danny Mescal, ABC 10 News.
They would show their picture because they want to go back to China one day maybe, and they don't want to fuck that up. Not like China's going to come here and get them. No, but they could mess them up if they ever go back and they see that they are defecting or whatever. They don't want to close that door quite yet. Okay. Whoa.
The possibility of more rain is pretty much the last thing people living in one Brentwood neighborhood want to see because a crack recently appeared in a hillside. Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Grande is there live and he has more on this. Carlos?
Look at this freaking crack, man.
Well, there is concern that this hillside above several homes here on Bundy Drive could be slipping. There is a crack that formed above there. The good news for now, it doesn't appear to be a problem, but as you might imagine, people here feel a bit uneasy. The crack in the ground formed over the weekend. Wild. It is right below a huge mansion and just above 5 other homes on Bundy Drive.
They said nothing to worry about, but I would be concerned if I saw that.
The Los Angeles City Fire Department came here responding to a 911 call as residents were worried about the stability of this hillside. Officials say the Department of Building and Safety and Public Works have checked for any movement. There is a crack that formed above there. The good news for now, it doesn't appear to be a problem, but as you might imagine, people here feel a bit uneasy.
But this.
The crack in the ground formed over the weekend. It is right below a huge mansion and just above 5 other homes on Bundy Drive.
They said nothing to worry about, but I would be concerned if I saw that.
The Los Angeles City Fire Department came here responding to a 911 call as residents were worried about the stability of this hillside. Officials say the Department of Building and Safety and Public Works have checked for any movement.
All of whom performed an assessment as well as a geologist to look at this hillside. And then our firefighters worked very closely with the residents. There's about 5 homes in the vicinity of that area that we spoke with. We explained the situation, we explained the findings, and also that there was no formal evacuation that was given. And because it hadn't moved, of course,
now at 12:30. We have had a lot of rain over the last few weeks, and we have seen mudslides in several areas. People who have lived here for decades say they've never seen anything like this, and that's why they're worried.
It could trigger and slip, and it could take out a lot of houses. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it could. I don't know. You know, I'm just saying.
You did say it could.
It sure looks bad.
When you see it, you say you've never seen a crack like that.
No, never.
And again, because there could be more rain later on this week, as we just heard, that's why people here are keeping a very close eye on this hillside.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown.
The aerial acrobats take to the skies every year for the annual Pacific Air Show, but there are concerns that the event improperly cuts off access to the beach. Event organizers also close the pier to the general public.
Now, 2 state commissions have sent letters to the city and the company that runs the events expressing those concerns.
This is the one I tried to go to when you're on stream.
Chip
I
Yost
got
live in
there too
Huntington
late.
Beach with more. Chip.
Hey, Long Beach. You say Long Beach?
Yeah, hey there, Glenn and Lou. Both the California Coastal Commission and the State Lands Commission sent letters to the city of Huntington Beach and Code 4, the company that runs the Pacific Air Show, last week, accusing them of multiple violations during last year's show. For one, they said they accused the city and the operators of the show of privatization of public lands. For one, the pier is owned by the State Lands Commission.
They don't have fucking...
It leases the pier back to the city, but the city and the air show, they say, failed to get proper permits and authorization for some of the activities of the show, including selling tickets to get access to the
Yeah,
pier.
I
They
had
said
pier
the
tickets
pier was
last
blocked
year.
off to people who did not have tickets. They said that was improper
Huh.
and a violation of the agreements in place. They
Wow.
also, the Coastal Commission and the Lands Commission, raised questions about similar practices on the beach, where they blocked off large portions of the beach to set up private bleachers.
Yeah,
They
those
also
were
raised
expensive.
concerns about the
They had
flight
like
patterns
gondolas
and the
down there or
noise of
something.
the planes. As far as the Bolsa Chica Ecological Reserve, which is also owned by the Lands Commission, they say the flight patterns, the noise caused problems for some of the wildlife in that reserve, and they also didn't have the proper permits and
They're gonna
authorization
shut
for
down
some of
the
the flight patterns,
show.
or at least those are some of the accusations. So what does this mean for the future of the show? Let's read more from part of the letter sent by the Coastal Commission. Remember, these are two different letters. This is part of one from the Coastal Commission, which says, Commission staff would like to reiterate that it is not the intent of this letter to prohibit future air shows from taking place in Huntington Beach. However, the October 2023 air show's widespread, unpermitted privatization of public land violates public access protection policies.
Oh,
As
so
such,
people are
to
gonna
avoid
get to come
future
for
activities
free.
that might expose the city and Code 4 to formal enforcement actions,
everywhere.
Commission staff is requesting a meeting with all parties involved. They're also
You can have it, but it's
requesting
gonna be
some of the
free now.
documents, some of the agreements between Code 4 and the city. We reached out to Code 4 for comment, have not heard back as of yet. We reached out to the city of Huntington Beach, and they sent us a statement basically saying that they are in possession of those letters that were sent by the two commissions last week. For now, reporting live here in Huntington Beach.
Yeah, they're
I'm
gonna try to
Chip
get
Hills, KTLA
permission
5
to
News.
do what they're doing.
A streaming app on Fire TV, Android TV, Apple TV, and Roku to watch on your TV.
Proposed deal could impact the way you shop, but the U.S. government has now stepped in to stop the merger of two supermarket giants, and California is now also joining the fight. Eyewitness News reporter Eric Resendiz is live in West Hollywood with the latest developments and what it could mean for shoppers. Eric.
John, the federal government says it really comes down to possible higher prices for millions of Americans because of this historic merger between Albertsons and Kroger, which owns Ralph's. The Golden State California joined a lawsuit to block the proposed deal.
If these two behemoths of the retail grocery industry combine forces, it's very likely that we'll see reduced competition, a serious blow to unions looking to negotiate better working conditions, higher food prices across the country at a time when so many families are already struggling just to get food on the table.
Kroger and Albertsons, two of the nation's largest grocers, agreed to merge in October 2022. The company said it would help them better compete with big rivals like Walmart, Amazon, and Costco. A spokesperson from Albertsons saying if the FTC is successful in blocking this deal, it will hurt customers. In response to the lawsuit,
Amazon
both
gets it
companies
from
chiming
them.
in. Kroger saying it has a proven track record of lowering prices, and the merger will mean even lower prices. But the FTC says the proposed $24.6 billion deal would lead to higher prices. The FTC also says the merger would erase competition for workers, threatening their ability to earn higher wages, better benefits, and improved working conditions.
Mergers need to be regulated. I don't think they should be allowed, especially at a time when food costs are, skyrocketing.
Albertsons and Kroger hope to close the deal earlier this year. It's 8 states and the District of Columbia that joined the lawsuit filed by the FTC.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content.
Oh man, that's the one I wanted to play. Where'd it go? Oh man. It disappeared. Well. United
their basic needs. And in this context,
States is talking. Hold on. I've been waiting on them to talk. They just went up.
Thank you.
I thank the representative of Slovenia for his statement, and I give the floor now to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Director Rajasingham, Deputy Director General Martina, and Deputy Executive Director Scow for your briefings today. Our hearts go out to the thousands of families in Gaza who cannot meet their basic needs, and in this context, we welcome today's discussion under Resolution 2417. Promoting food security is a long-standing U.S. priority, and the situation in Gaza is no exception. We urge Israel to keep border crossings open for humanitarian aid to enter Gaza, to facilitate the opening of additional crossings, to meet humanitarian needs at scale, and to support the rapid, safe delivery of relief items to vulnerable people in all of Gaza. Simply put, Israel must do more. I also share your profound concern for the well-being of the more than 1 million Palestinian civilians in Rafah. It is unconscionable that Hamas fighters continue to embed themselves among civilians and civilian infrastructure, including in hospitals and schools. We caution that a major ground offensive should not proceed in Rafah under the current circumstances. We also reiterate our calls for all parties to uphold international humanitarian law. U.S. Administrator Samantha Power is in the region this week to deliver this message directly. The United States has worked tirelessly since October to reduce barriers to getting humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza, and will continue to do so. We worked with Egypt and Israel to open the crossing at Rafah so that trucks with food and humanitarian supplies could enter Gaza. We pressed to open Kerem Shalom to facilitate additional humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza. We have provided over $180 million to humanitarian organizations to deliver assistance, including food, to the people in Gaza and West Bank. We have called consistently for the protection of UN and humanitarian workers as they fulfill their critical role of ensuring that food and humanitarian supplies do not just cross into Gaza, but reach civilians in need throughout Gaza. We continue to call on Israel to improve deconfliction procedures to ensure aid can move safely and securely. We also recognize the fearless efforts of UN humanitarian workers who work under great personal danger to meet the humanitarian needs of those inside Gaza. We wholeheartedly support Senior Humanitarian and Reconstruction Coordinator COG's efforts to scale up humanitarian deliveries. It is essential that Senior Coordinator COG has the resources and personnel necessary to get the job done. Let me conclude with a note on our efforts to secure the release of the hostages. It is unconscionable that Hamas and other terrorist groups continue to further this conflict, while at the same time holding more than 130 hostages. We will continue to engage in intensive diplomacy with the parties to reach a hostage deal that would enable a significant temporary ceasefire, which will alleviate the suffering of the people in the Gaza Strip. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of the United States for his statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of China.
I guess that's it for me, y'all. I don't see anything else really happening. So, oh, there's this little thing. It's like a minute long.
Break right around the corner. This morning, the U.S. State Department, though, is issuing a safety warning for some popular destinations. The agency cautioning Americans who are headed to Mexico. Officials are blaming crime, drugs, and unregulated alcohol for the increase in concern. They say people on vacation should always be aware of their surroundings, especially at night and in popular areas like Cancun, Playa del Carmen, and Tulum. They also advise buying travel insurance that actually covers your trip.
Alright. Have a good one now, you hear? Going now. Bring it out. Mark, Ted, T, Anthony, A. See you later.